everyone. Welcome tonight or afternoon, wherever you live. This is House Rivalries Week 3, and we are having another ton of matchups, starting with Nordavind versus New Dynasty on stream. Together here with me are, and now I have to look it up because I don't know who's analyst, Green Sheep and Ree Bobson. Thank you very much. Welcome. What do you know about, what do you think about this match? Who do you expect to win? Both teams are 1 in 3, so the loser is out.
Yep. I'm going to take this one. Sheep's got some very important opinions he wants to share in just a little bit, but so personally, I think I'd have to give it to New Dynasty. Their lineup has a pretty kind of clear target mid-range hunter while also bringing it kind of vibe to it. They are bringing Odd Warrior, Odd Paladin, Odd Hybrid Mage, and mid-range hunter. I just realized how much Odd is there. So they're kind of trying to just beat up on this mid-range hunter and hopefully win in the mirror. While Nordavind have even Warlock, Control Priest, mid-range hunter, and Togwaggle Druid. It's a bit of a weirder lineup, and their mid-range hunter just might struggle a bit. So we do have bans in. The Odd Warrior has obviously been banned away for New Dynasty, as it just kind of dumpsters on everything that's not Togwaggle Druid, while Nordavind have had their Togwaggle Druid banned away, which makes a lot of sense if you're for both teams, I think. Green Sheep, I think, has some pretty strong opinions on some aspects of a lineup here. Sheep, what are they?
Yeah, please tell me, what are these thoughts you have about the lineup?
So just having a look at New Dynasty's lineup, I thought straight away I noticed something very interesting. They have a mage.
Yeah.
It's not that many mages common in Hearthstone nowadays, and this is an odd mage. And I haven't seen much odd mage. I haven't played much odd mage, but I'm not a big fan of odd mage.
Well, I've seen a lot of odd secret mage lately. Like this one's a more aggressive cousin. But this hybrid, as it's called, but it's more like the classic odd mage with all the AoEs. Is this better or worse in this meta? Like, is it even worth it to bring mage?
I would say that it is the hybrid version is considerably worse. You make the deck slow enough that against the kind of slower decks, the kind of clone priest, the wall priest, etc., you kind of just lose those matchups because you can't get out of the gate quick enough. But then against the other aggressive decks, you're not quite a good enough control deck against them either. I'm not a big fan of odd hybrid mage as it's been called, but it's
Okay, well, and that is our analysis for now. We will see if the odd hybrid mage will turn out to do well, or will it be bad. Casters, Run, and Cinder take.
Well, thanks, Livion. We're hoping to see a little bit better performance in the Odd Mage because I am personally a fan. Of course, I am Cinder, and I am the Odd Mage fan in the bunch, I guess. And I'm being joined by Run today for the first match cast. How you doing, Run?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'm excited to see how this odd mage performs. We've had a little bit of discussion over it, and it hasn't all been great. So hopefully, we'll not be disappointed in this odd mage how it performs one way or the other.
And I think the analysts were kind of on the money. The mid range hunter for Nordavind is kind of in trouble. This is a lineup that New Dynasty looks to have made specifically to target that deck. So the key, I think, is going to be to find a way to win with that hunter. Now, both of these teams are 1 in 3 in the Swiss, so getting a win here is absolutely critical if they want to try and even get a skosh of a chance going into round 6 later on today.
Yes. Yeah. Both teams going in, whoever loses is out of the tournament. So this is going to be putting it all on the line for both players. I know that there's so much going on today with, various tournaments as well. So we may not see like full rosters today as well. So that could affect both teams with how they go. So good luck to both teams on this as they play. And I'm just excited to see what these aggro decks are going to do versus these kind of more control oriented style. So
Oh yeah, and I am personally a fan of Control Mage of olden days, and this Odd Mage from New Dynasty kind of has a little bit of a callback to that. So I'm excited. We're just waiting for the players to jump into the battle now. And while we wait, Run, what's your prediction for the match? Who do you think's going to come out on top here?
Oh, I mean, it's going to all depend on, draws and make sure that you're playing well and whatnot. But I like New Dynasty, just from, some of these decks, some of these choices, if they get out fast enough, they're gonna manage to really do some damage early here. What do you think, Cinder?
Nordavind was such a heavy favorite heading into this tournament. So it's interesting to see them battling down near the bottom of the pack. But if New Dynasty has been impressive, but hasn't been able to pick up the wins. So we are jumping into the game now. We are going to be watching. First up, here comes the Mage Run. I'm super excited. We're going to see it up against the the Even Warlock from Nordavind.
Awesome. This should be a great matchup.
And this is, even though this is a little more control styled, mid-range / control styled mage, they called it a hybrid mage in their deck submission. But it does still have some of the available burn tools, particularly the hero power. That 2 damage hero power from Baku is very powerful against this warlock that's going to be seeking to life tap quite a lot over the course of this game.
Yes, there's a lot of damage that hero power will consistently do onto the warlock. The warlock's going to need to get those spell stones out early and get them upgraded to be able to heal back up. But we know warlocks, that's what they tend to do. Go down low and get those 7/7s out. Help me out with the names, Thunder. My apologies.
Hooked Reavers.
Hooked Reaver, thank you. Tend to get those out early and then heal right back up. The Warlock hero power just being so overpowering here.
Yeah, and a fairly slow start here for New Dynasty's deck. I think they would really have liked to see a Firefly early on here. But Leroy is just not going to be useful in the early game here. So this could be a slow start for New Dynasty. Nordavind may be able to capitalize this on the low curve they have on their side.
Yes, and when you're playing in an aggro deck, granted, this Secret Mage is not an aggro deck, but this is not what you want to see on turn one. You're the aggressor in this matchup, probably with that hero power and whatnot, and not being able to do anything here probably feels a little on the bad side for New Dynasty.
Well, New Dynasty gonna start utilizing that hero power now. So every turn, Nordavind, you're gonna be taking 4 damage. So they're gonna have to balance very carefully how much they tap, and still 2 taps into the game Run and no giant yet for Nordavind. That's a tough draw coming into that very important turn. Oh, right off the top.
There is the giant. And this Odd Mage actually will probably struggle to get this cleared. We do see that Voodoo Doctor or the Voodoo Doll coming into hand. So that's a great inclusion, being able to just, get that giant off the board. It does look like New Dynasty is kind of thinking, do I have to clear that now, or do I, can I leave it on the board and try something else? But honestly, Cinder, they do not have much in their hand to be able to do anything else here.
And looks like they're eyeballing both of these daring fire eaters. Going to come down. Yeah, they're going to put 6 into the giant and trade it away. So that'll reset the clock from New Dynasty's point of view, and going to be up to Nordavind to start reapplying some aggression. And they've got their options here, Run. They've got a plethora of 2 and 4 drops available to them, so they can take a number of lines here.
Yes, yeah, there is so much in their hand right now to be able to start pushing board damage as well as to face. We do see that that New Dynasty has Jan'alai in hand, And so that is, that's a pretty big pickup. I think that's why we saw that here, so that they could get the damage in on that versus doing like the voodoo doll and clearing. So I like this choice early on. Puts a little bit of minion pressure down as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. They've already put in enough damage to activate John Eli's ability to summon Ragnaros.
And that gives a lot of flexibility to what they can do in the following turns with that hero power as well. Okay. Unfortunately, just not seeing a whole lot to be done here. Leroy just isn't a great option. A lot of high power. You really aren't wanting to look to put a tyrant down here. So not a lot to be able to do on New Dynasty's side at this point, however. I think that we had a little bit of technical difficulties with Cinder there, so we're going to continue on and have him pick up when he gets in. But we do see that New Dynasty is looking at that hero power here, maybe to get through the taunt. There's not a lot of great options in New Dynasty's hand at this point, so I think they're trying to get back the board and control here, just staying alive until they can get some big minions down. And I believe that we got Cinder back on the line. Is that correct?
I do apologize for that. A little bit of an internet hiccup here in the southern U.S., but it tends to happen in the winter. And go ahead and carry on, run while I rejoin the game.
Awesome. So we are looking now. There's a ton of options in Nordovin's hand to be able to start pushing pressure. The health isn't quite where they would want it to be doing the Hooked Reaver. So they're going to look for some board pressure, it looks like, with this Skulking Geist. Not going to hit much in either of these decks, obviously. But the we've got some board clears here that's not going to do a whole terrible lot for New Dynasty. The Flame Strike just not being going to be able to clear that Skulking Geist. The Voodoo Doctor being able to clear one minion, but as as an odd mage, you just really don't want to be using Voodoo Dolls here. It's just a lot of resources in hand that aren't doing you much good on New Dynasty's side. And if you start to lose this board against an even lock, you really feel super bad. It starts to snowball with large minions that you will struggle to clear, even with a deck full of board clears. Now, Cinder, did you manage to get back into game?
Yeah, I am back, and I'm looking at the same board state you're looking at here, and I have to agree, the Voodoo Doll is a valuable tool, and they may have to put it down here just to deal with that 4/6. I mean, a New Dynasty is at 28 life, but it's you never want to leave too much damage up against this even Warlock. They need space to drop that Jan'alai next turn, so 2 damage is a lot safer than 6 damage.
Yes, and I like that move there. Being able to clear and keep that Ragnaros on the board for as long as they can means that it's going to put Nordovin on the back foot. They're going to have to be answering that instead of maybe pushing their game plan forward. So I do like the choice there to use their resources and can push damage. I like this play too. Getting that Gen out is a very big deal for that Ragnaros, making it very easy to kill off if it doesn't die.
Yeah, this, and again, just the biggest thing that they had in their hand, and trying to apply as much pressure as they can. And if New Dynasty doesn't go with the Jan'alai, there is the Astromancer that just came into hand. An Astromancer would be summoning, I think, would it be a 6 or a 7 mana minion run?
That it would be. There are 7 in hand, so it would be a 6.
Be a 6, okay.
6 mana minion.
And there's plenty of decent 6 drops in the pool, so this would be interesting to see which way they go.
Yes, I like this play here, putting pressure. Oh, and him, it's a pretty good option there for a 6 mana, 6/6 on board, being able to kind of deal with a lot of stuff here that comes down. So, we're finally starting to see some bigger stuff come into Nordovin's hand, which is a big deal as the even lock, able to, get some demons down. However, no spellstone in hand means that that's not going to unfortunately activate that spellstone, which they're really wanting to see in this matchup.
Yeah, I think the Astromancer play there was also kind of a nod to the possibility of that spellstone being in hand. If with the 4 and a 4/4 and an 8/8 could have been easily answered with a combination of trades and a spellstone, but they went for the Astromancer for a bigger body. So now New Dynasty still has something on board to challenge with. Now they still have that 5/4 facing off against the 2/2 and the 6/6. So New Dynasty now has a little bit more flexibility in their play here, as opposed to having to play defensively, as you were just talking about.
Yes, they're in a very interesting position to be able to get things down. Unfortunately, not able to clear the 6/6 easily and get Janelai down. There's still some good options here to be able to get it. We do see a Firefly come in hand. Probably not the top deck that New Dynasty was looking for here, though.
No, they need a little bit more pressure here on turn 8. So that there's the options kind of they do have a number of options here, but the Flame Strike doesn't clear the Dread Inferno. Genelai has a possibility of not going in the might hit the 2/2, which they don't want at all. So they're going to go ahead and do that. They're going to trade with the Astromancer to try to set up the best possible value for that Ragnaros. Now they also dropped the Firefly here. Ron, what do you think about that?
I like it. I think they're trying to put as much pressure into the board as possible here. By putting as much pressure as they can, it makes them deal with the board instead of developing, several maybe minions to help clear. They've got the Leroy in hand for that extra damage plus the hero power. So there's 8 potential burst damage in hand. If that went face, which it did, then by leaving Firefly or maybe something else on the board, they're able to threaten lethal this turn. So Nordovin's got to come up with some good answers. We do see there are a few answers here in their hands, but another rag shot to face is not going to be good here.
Yeah, rag shot. It's not going to take much for New Dynasty to put in just enough damage to have that Ragnaros shot be lethal. So they're going to have to consider what's the best way to prevent just dying next turn based off the board plus the Ragnaros. So they're just going to load up with as much defense as possible. Armor gain, big taunt in the way, and the Blaze Caller off the top is so good.
Oh my goodness. This is let's see. Is that lethal there? Deal 5 damage. Oh, it's close.
If it's not, it's darn close. And even though the Blaze Caller is super good here, the Flame Strike actually might be enough because that'll clear off all the additional targets. There's still the armor's gonna be in play though, so that's not gonna quite get the job done. But this is such a powerful answer to Nordovin's board here.
Very powerful answer. I like that. They could have and maybe done some straight damage there to face and pushed for lethal, but I like this. It developed, cleared their board and developed another piece to the puzzle towards lethal. So it was an excellent choice, I feel like, on New Dynasty here. And oh my goodness, tapping for that spellstone and finding it, but not being an answer they really need.
No.
There's no real taunt answers. They didn't get the the things that they really needed here, and maybe another taunt. They do have some healing, but all of that is going face, and we do see Nordovin giving it up there.
Yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for game 1. New Dynasty takes the first game of the match. They'll go up 1-0. The Odd Mage takes the win, much to, I'm sure, our analyst's chagrin. So the remainder of New Dynasty's lineup, they still have Odd Paladin and the Mid-Range Hunter available to them. Nordovin back to the drawing board with all 3 decks for the remainder of the match.
Yes, they're back to it. Very good play there, knowing that New Dynasty's part, because they knew they had to be the aggressor in this matchup. That deck doesn't tend to be as aggressive. It doesn't run, it's not running the secrets that tend to make the deck more aggressive. So normally you would be more reactive with that deck, but they knew what they needed to do. They were from the very beginning. They put the minions down to put pressure on. Really like that heads up play on New Dynasty's part. We're going back into Game Center, it looks like, and we're going to be seeing, it looks like, the Odd Paladin versus the Mid-Range Hunter.
Ooh, and this is probably great news for New Dynasty. This is one of the decks that they chose seemingly specifically to go after this hunter from Nordavind. So as long as they can get a good start, you never want to go second as the Odd Paladin in this matchup, but nonetheless, like they should still be able to leverage that hero power and put out lots of minions to try to keep control of the board.
Now, we do know that Odd Paladin looks like it is favored over this mid-range hunter. However, we are seeing some great tools come into hand already for Nordavind, having the Scavenging Hyena, being able to pick up the Rush Mini. Oh my goodness. The card names are escaping me today. Spring Paw. If able to get Spring Paw, this is going to be a big deal against this matchup. But that Candle Shot is a huge pickup just to be able to take off minion after minion. Master's Call probably not necessarily the card that they want to see on 3 against an Odd Paladin just because it's such aggressive deck. But I like, their 2 early pickups here.
Yeah, the Candle Shot comes into hand right away, and New Dynasty also got a 1-drop off of their mulligan. The Argent Squire, great answer to the Candle Shot. Gonna take 2 of 3 charges out of that Candle Shot if they want to deal with that. But that assumes that would pick up something like a Righteous Protector off the top. So far, this is, I mean, the Candle Shot was a great pickup run, but you never really just want to throw the Hyena without any backup on turn 2. So this actually might be a troublesome start here for Nordavind. They may just drop the Hyena as a tempo.
It does look like they didn't get the pieces that they really need. I mean, and tempo, what they're going to have to do and what they choose to end up doing. The only slightly upside we see is maybe that New Dynasty's hand does look a little bit heavier, even especially drawing the Frost Wolf Warlord there. But again, like this is such a fast deck. The veteran being able to pick that off easily and then being able to hero power here is just already, this board looks somewhat menacing when your hand is draw 3 minion or draw 3 beasts. It doesn't feel great.
And my goodness, Revenge of the Wild comes off the top that forces Nordavind to cast that Master's Call on 3, which is exactly what they didn't want to do. So all of the sudden, New Dynasty really in the driver's seat after having gone second in this matchup. They have some options here. They can hit that hero power and a Blessing of Might and just make the board bigger, or as they go with the Defender, Lich King off the Discover. Ooh.
Yeah, I do appreciate the fact that they're all golden. Do you think that Lich King though is just a little bit slow for this matchup?
It might be. Maybe the Gastropod's the smart choice here. It's not easily cleared by the hunter. Offers some value trades for whatever the hunter drops on turn 4, turn 5. So it might be the correct choice. But a golden Lich King is really hard to pass up.
It would be really hard to pass up. King. But also looking at your hand here, you don't have a ton of minion pressure to put in over the next couple turns. However, New Dynasty likes that pick. I like it too. There aren't too many minions here that are going to be able to clear. You're going to have to get a Crackling Razor Maw into a poison, or you're going to have to run a lot of your minions into it to kill it. So maybe they see over the next 5 hands how this is going to end up working out. And we do see the kill command going on the Stonehill. Probably not where you want to be using that kill command at all. But clearing this board is priority number 1.
Now look at this. The Nordavind does not expend the last charge on the Candle Shot. What do you think they're holding it for?
That's a very interesting call here. I honestly don't know what they're holding for. Maybe they feel like this board isn't menacing enough to really pick something off, and they're wanting to wait and make sure that they can get something later. I haven't looked at the deck list to see if this is running Hunter's Marks here.
I thought of that just as you said it, and I'm looking, and they don't run Hunter's Marks. So really, the Candle Shot, this is the utility it's there for. It's there to take care of these ones. So I'm curious as to why that was the choice there. And then the trade coming in for New Dynasty as well, taking that dire mole off the board. 1/3 doesn't seem too menacing, but there's always the threat of crackling razor maw and dire frenzy and things like that. So understandable trade there from New Dynasty.
Yes, I agree. I think it's a good trade in the sense that that dire mole will continue to pick off. If a crackling razor maw comes down, it just gets pretty yucky. If it turns into a 4/6 off of that dire frenzy, I mean, it's not going anywhere for a really long time as an odd
Right.
paladin. So I like this choice. We are seeing that Nordavin's having to use some of their integral pieces to, as board clears. But I do like how this is going to set up for Nordavin with, there's some beast in hand. It's really hard to clear without using some resources. And we just saw them use the +3. My stars
That's,
cards are just not coming today.
Blessing of Might.
Blessing of Might. Thank you. So no real answers on how to clear this Rhino.
Yeah.
So I kind of like this play here from Nordavin. They have the charge on all the minions that come out in return. We know that there's not a ton out there, but it could give them a big push that they need to be able to not only control board but move forward in pushing their game plan now.
Yeah, and this is an interesting decision point here for New Dynasty. It's an awkward turn for them. It's turn 5. The Fungomancer really is not getting any value. Frostwolf Warlord would only have been a 5/5. So logically speaking, the best answer is to just create the pressure like they did. But they knew that coming into turn 6, Deathstalker Rexar was a real possibility. They decided to risk it, and they're getting punished here by Nordavin, and Nordavin suddenly takes control of this match.
It always seems like Rexar is in hand, especially
Right.
when you're in aggro. It's the punish for running aggro, and that's what happened here. Unfortunately, maybe pushing that Frostwolf might have been for the best because it would have cleared minions. It threatened the Rhino. However, they basically went all in there and said either you have it or I'm able to do a lot of damage here. So
Yeah, you're right. 2 Fungomancers waiting in hand would have been a fantastic push on the following turn if that risk paid off, but it doesn't. So New Dynasty has to go back to the drawing board here. Decent options from the Stonehill Defender, but none of them really standing out. And I think they learned their lesson on the Lich King versus Gastropod last time. They pick up the Gloom Eater for the Poisonous, but now this is a pretty good position for Nordavin to be in. They still have their Tundra Rhino giving charge to all their minions, and Rexar is online. So this is a great opportunity for them to really secure the lead in this particular game.
They have such a huge turn here with the Timberwolves both being able to come down, be able to trade in, clear the board, and then call the Wild and send it all back to face is just absolutely a fantastic turn. So I think we're going to see most of this push, clear the board and then push face and then turn around and probably redo it all over again. Talk about board control.
Yeah, and this, the Revenge of the Wild is not a flashy card. When it came out of the previews, people were thinking about King Crush and Undasta and resurrect and that kind of stuff. Usually you resurrect 1/1s after you secure the board and just push a bunch more damage. So look at this is a commanding board from Nordavin, being able to quite possibly set up a lethal position here for game 2. I don't know that there's anything
possibly.
I don't know that there's anything that the Odd Paladin can do. This is just made here.
And I think that this is where the choice of the Lich King, while it's a nice big body, was probably the downfall here. Unable to put anything down really, at least had there been a smaller taunt gone into place, they could have, and we do see them go ahead and give it up. I just feel like that was probably the choice that cost them the game. Had they been able to stabilize some minions behind a taunt there, I think that this might have been a different game for them. Although that was probably the picture perfect turn for this mid-range hunter, getting that call the hounds, and then being able to put both Timberwolves down as well as the charge. It just and the call. Well, that was if you're going to play this deck, this is the turn that you want to see every single time. This is your combo. This is what this is your cheese face moment. You get to be excited that this is in hand. So we do see New Dynasty give it up. So now we are sitting at 1-1, correct?
Right, we are at 1-1, so it is now basically a best of 3 between New Dynasty and Nord Event. And again, one of these teams has to win to maintain any kind of chance to heading into the cut after the next 2 rounds are done. So pressure is on. The Hunter's going to come out for New Dynasty against the Even Warlock from Nord Event, and this is one that the Even Warlock is probably going to be sweating a little bit.
Yes, I would think so. These hunters decks can just get the fastest start, snowball into, great things. So which we just saw, into these like fantastic turns that are all like almost hard to beat. However, we do see some really great answers on the part of Nordaven here that can just change the game. Having Defile in hand early, having a Spellbreaker for the hyenas, having the Hellfire to just clear out the board is going to make a large difference.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Defile's such a huge card in this matchup. Thanks to lots and lots of 1/1s in the Hunter's pool. So that Defile is an amazing keep for the Even Lock.
And since they had the Defile in hand, it looks like they did head and back the Hellfire. Spellbreaker was sent back as well. We do see Mojo, Master Zihi come out, and that's a really interesting choice. An anti-combo control card there. I like that tech. Doesn't necessarily work in this matchup as much, but I do like that tech in the Even Lock.
Oh, for sure. Like and some of the more punishing plays of Zihi I've seen is hit your Gul'dan and then reset the board, the game back to turn 6, which is so punishing against decks like Priest that rely on big board clears to maintain the pace of the game. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just gonna be a 5-5 in this match. And it's getting an update from production. Sounds like the Helsinki Reds have gotten swept by the Oslo Lions. My goodness, that's a quick result.
Yes, I'm a little surprised at that sweep there. I wonder what was going on there. If we get any update on that, we will let you guys know. Very slow start here, unfortunately, for New Dynasty. Only having that one spring pot out and having to hero power here. But the pickup of the animal companion off the top is going to probably feel pretty good, Cinder, right?
Oh yeah, that's especially if it rolls Huffer, and we know that Huffer is 98% of the rolls you get off of Animal Companion, if my math's correct. So would not be surprised to see him rip this here. It's going to be Huffer. Knew it. Yeah, there you go.
I like it. Now, if there wasn't an answer in hand, they have quite the follow-up. We do see, though, that there is two nice answers just sitting in hand for this board. So, and there goes Huffer. Having a 7 or 8-5 Huffer would have been pretty fun, right?
Ooh, yeah, and especially 3 of them sitting in the deck as well to be pulled up by Master's Call later on. Yeah, you cannot, as the Warlock, you cannot let that stick. And that was really good timing too on the Defile, because turn 4 is a very awkward turn for this Hunter. There are no minions available on turn 4 except for a flanking strike, and with no minions to hit with a flanking strike, they had to resort to the Master's Call to draw some cards, and now they're playing from behind.
Yes, and the later that you let this Even Lock go, the bigger the minions get, and you're not running as a mid large minions or ways to get through large taunts. You have to use your minions from your deck to do that, and you don't want to be in that position as the aggro fast deck here. So New Dynasty has really got to pick up the pace here and get this going.
Yeah, now they do have some decent plays here available to them. There's a Spring Paw Dire Frenzy option available. They could utilize perhaps Candle Shot plus Flanking Strike to clear the board and generate a minion. So they have options available to them. I think the question is going to be, how do they want to balance their development against the possibility of more board clears coming from the Even Warlock? Because those board clears are pretty much how this Even Warlock stays alive in this matchup.
Yes. It does look like they're going to utilize the strike. I really like this. It develops while clearing. You know, if they had gone with the other way around with the Dire, it would only leave a 1/1 on the board, which doesn't feel great. But they're pushing as much damage. Oh, but what a huge pickup here! If they decide to utilize this mountain giant.
The only thing that could have been better than the Mountain Giant is the Mountain Giant, and also having the Taunt Creator, the Sun Fairy Protector in hand. So it's just going to be a giant by itself, but that alone is quite a threatening presence. New Dynasty, no Hunter's Mark in the New Dynasty deck, so they have to find a more honest way to answer this giant.
Yes, yeah. And this giant is there's not a great way in their hand to do it. It's going to cost them resources, maybe some, a dire frenzy on the wolf, but really do you want to throw 6/6 wolves back into your deck? I don't know that you do. Not a great force here. No crackling razor maws to try to find some poison. Right. They've got to answer this giant, but how?
They might consider a tracking to find a Razor Maw, but that's a lot of things that need to go your way. Looks like they're going to utilize a Dire Frenzy and leverage the trades that they need to do to power up this Hyena, which is not a terrible play here. That's going to leave them with a 6/4 and the weapon still available on board, which is a decent amount of pressure against this Warlock.
Yeah, the only problem that we always find in with the Even Lock is one of the few decks right now that is always running Silence. Right. And the Silence being in the hand can really control this right here. The question is are they concerned that this Hyena is, as big as it is, or do they, look and see, are there other options in my hand that I want to push now as opposed to the Silence? I kind of like the Silence here because we know how much those hyenas can just snowball out of control.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing for Nordavind, no 2-drop to pair with this Spellbreaker, so it's not as strong as a board as they could have hoped for. Vulgar Homunculus would have been really, really good here. Sun Fury Protector would have been almost as good. So this still kind of gives the board back to New Dynasty. So the trade plus the weapon will allow them to secure a clear board and then develop with all 7 of their mana. So this could be a turnaround, swing turn for New Dynasty.
I agree. However, I don't think that Nordavind is kind of sitting here sweating this as much as they were. We know with Tundra Rhinos how crazy those can turn out. However, if they're sitting here looking at it, they've got Defile in hand, they've got Hellfire. They can coin out a Lich King, which might be a little slow, but they've got some options to be able to start dealing with this board a little more. However, the second Scavenging Hyena is a touch scary.
Ooh, look at this setup, though. They're going to go ahead and power up this second Scavenging Hyena as high as they possibly can, or not as high as they could. Looks like they're thinking about the weapon for the last bit. Okay. I think I'm okay with that. It's about the same amount of damage, so this will still threaten quite a bit. And the Razor Maw got picked up by the tracking, so the possibility of a Wind Fury next turn could actually seal the game here for New Dynasty.
Yes, that was quite a very big swing turn, especially when we see Tundra Rhino, we see Pyro Frenzy, we have Crackling Razor Maw. There is a lot to do. I don't think that New Nordavind is out of it by any stretch here, but it's going to require the use of some resources that they may not have wanted to use here.
Right. Still no Spellstone available for Nordavind here. The Hellfire would have to be paired with the Defile in order to clear the board, and that would set them to 14, which is not a good feeling against a deck that can burst you for 12 from hand. So this is a tricky turn here but Nordavind's going to go ahead with it. They're going to commit both of those board clears now.
Yeah.
And get down to a very dangerous life total.
Yes, this is a very dangerous life total. So it's going to be, I mean, and we see the Tundra Rhino in hand. And it looks like they're looking at various options here with that Crackling. That Crackling Razor mod could make a very, oh, and this is the buffed Blinks. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So very interesting turn here to push as much damage.
Oh, the
and
Wind Fury! That's they're one off of lethal.
One off of
Goodness.
lethal. Oh, you can't even buff your spell zone now. Even if it had come off the top, no homunculuses can come down. What a turn! Yeah, they see it.
They give it up right away.
Yeah, they saw the writing on the wall and said, "Okay, let's move on to the next one."
Yeah.
What
So this
a
this is going to
turn.
put New Dynasty on match point. The next win they get will seal the deal. The last deck remaining for New Dynasty is that Odd Paladin, which did not get the win against the Hunter. So now the Odd Paladin has two shots against both the Clone Priest and the Warlock. So this is
It's not a great matchup on paper. However, we've seen it go the opposite direction already in this matchup. So, but definitely a rough matchup when you have Scream coming in hand for the Paladin and then Defile. It's just not great.
Right. Yeah, this isn't so much Odd Paladin versus Even Warlock as it is Odd Paladin versus do you have Defile in your hand? And we don't see a Defile from the Warlock, but we do see Hellfire, and that's almost as good. It'll clear as many boards as Defile will. So this is going to be a question of can the Even Lock outrace the development of the Paladin and keep those boards clear. And going second as the Paladin, feels quite bad. They need that first initiative so much to keep that pressure on in these kind of games.
Yes, I agree here. And I mean, even having that coin just doesn't do much for you.
Right.
Um,
There was a study done, a couple of studies done by Vicious Syndicate, which just showed how important it is to go first in matchups. There are very, very few decks that the coin even helps equalize your win condition. Rogue being one of the only classes that can consistently do it, thanks to the combo effect.
Right.
Aggressive decks absolutely want to go first, but you never want to be in a position where you're going second against a deck that can just continuously clear you, and they just tapped for their first Defile on turn one.
Oh, that does not look good for this Odd Paladin. However, you can always turn around. Huge boards can come out of nowhere with these Odd Paladins, but and what we saw last time they played, even like just running out of resources or running out of board clears and just being able to put pressure down.
Oh, and I love this play here from New Dynasty, not putting down any 1/1 tokens, saying you're not going to defile this board. I'm going to start applying pressure right away. Blessing of Might coming down right away. Run. This is a very strong start despite going second.
Yes, and it's a golden thing against a Warlock when you're able to get a 1-drop down with that Blessing of Might. Just being able to get a 4/2 against a Warlock, there's no way for them to clear early without developing a minion to do so. But at that point, you're usually taking 8 damage to face, and if they can get it behind a taunt, you might be taking even more. So I really love this play here. Very, very wise not to put anything down so the Defile doesn't clear their board.
Although they are coming into that decision point in the game where they may not have many choices left. There's only so many 2 health minions available to them. In fact, in this hand, 2 that they can put down, and they would be floating a mana. And I would think that they may want to think about trading away that Beetle, and they do. So after this, Firefly and Flame Elemental are committed. Oh, they're going to go for the Lost in the Jungle. They're going to go ahead and bait out one of the Defiles now.
Yeah, it does look like that's what they're going to do. Having that Tar Creeper in hand kind of probably makes a bit of an easier choice here to be able to push that onto the board next turn, knowing you have a pretty large... oh, man, though.
Man,
pretty
that
large
giant has come into hand right on time several times for Nordavind. And
I'm sorry,
Go.
Saker, go ahead.
I was probably going to say the same thing you were, that there's quite a lot of pressure on the board for New Dynasty, so the 8/8 doesn't really challenge anything.
Yeah, that was definitely what I was going to say. Without that Sun Fury Protector ever coming into hand, the Giant just hasn't been able to do what Giants love to do, which is smack face. It's just not working. It's not acting as that 8/8 taunt for 3 mana or more mana. So definitely would like to see that Sun Fury Protector come into hand, but there's a lot of answers still in hand to be able to take care of these boards. And I know New Dynasty probably knows they're in there.
And New Dynasty actually, or excuse me, Nordavind decides to go for the Giant anyway. I guess they feel that 22 is a safe health total for this particular board state, and they think they have enough time to develop this 8/8 into some offense. So we'll see how New Dynasty responds to this. So far, they're just going to fill up the board.
I like this here. They know that they have a way to clear the board. They know that they're probably not going to die this turn. So maybe they bait out a little bit more resources so that they can just clear it and turn around. Spellstone being in hand, Hellfire being in hand. There's a lot of healing left. We also see the Shroom Brewer as well. So there's some healing here. And I like this play. Try to get them to put out as much in the resources they can, and then just get rid of the whole board.
Right. The advantage of the Odd Paladin, the fact that it can create so much pressure just off of the hero power and not use any resources from hand is what makes this deck so powerful. But that Hellfire that got held in the mulligan is gonna create quite a big threatening board state for Nordavind. Now the board is clear. And that 8/5 has stuck and gone face where you said where it likes to go.
And then on top of that, Nordavind actually gets the second Spellstone into hand and gets it upgraded by that Hellfire. So great timing there. So this is now going to not only deal 5 damage to a minion, which is a lot of the minions out there for an Odd Paladin, but it's also going to heal for 5. So, there's 14 in healing in hand if they do nothing else to upgrade these Spellstones. That's a big deal as far as an even Warlock's health total goes, because they don't mind sitting around the 10 to as they're healing, and they can stay out of Leroy Blessing of Mights and board damage. So
and though New Dynasty does have a little bit of an opportunity here to develop a moderately big board, thanks to the clear of the Corridor Creeper, now 0 mana. So 0 mana, coin, Firefly, plus a Warlord actually creates a decently threatening board for New Dynasty. That's exactly what they're going to go with here. So, they're going to go with the Flame Elemental. And this is an important decision, I think, because New Dynasty saw a Defile and a Hellfire already, so they may think they're safe from Defile, or at least they have a calculated risk going here. And if this sticks, the Warlord in the next turn is going to be enormous. So, but we see that Defile with our Caster Vision in hand for Nordavind. So once again, the answer's available.
And even then, they've still got a lot of options in hand to be able to, even if it's not a Defile turn, maybe they save it for another. They still can heal up a little bit here, maybe clear board, develop a minion. They can, they use the Defile. They've got just so many options to be able to not only push pressure face, but be able to get rid of a good chunk of this board.
Right, the Corridor Creeper is going to stick no matter what, so Nordavind has to consider that if they, whether or not they want to also clear that with the Mountain Giant. But because the Mountain Giants are going to go down to 2 health here, so they may opt to just heal it with the Shroom Brewer and maintain this pressure. Oh man, this is a powerful board here from Nordavind.
And we see the Maul come in there. Blessed Maul is probably not the pickup. Probably would have preferred to see maybe the Maul with a taunt on there. Forgive me, the name's escaping me, but
I don't think I've memorized all the Maul names either. But yeah, the taunt Maul I think is all we need to know.
But that's they've got to put some counter pressure here, and when we see that Leroy coming down, that just feels so bad.
Yeah, they have to trade here. There's no defensive tool available to them, and the 2 minions represent lethal. So they have to just use Leroy to trade. That just feels awful.
Yes, and honestly, that's a huge moment for Nordavind to really put on the gas. They're able to clear this board, develop a large minion, and they activate their upgrade their spell stones. Oh, what a turn!
Oh
And
man,
New
So-
Dynasty reads the writing on the wall as we've
Yeah.
said before.
So this now comes down to a single match or single game run. We are tied up 2-2. So this Odd Paladin has one more chance to win, but it has to go up against the Control Priests from Nordavind, and that is a scary proposition. They have Nordavind has not only the Dusky Boy, Dustbreaker, but also has Wild Pyromancers in their deck. So this and Primordial Drakes. So this priest is almost perfectly teched against an Odd Paladin.
And Tar Creepers for early minion.
Oh, man.
You know, those Tar Creepers are so annoying. Being able to even just get a shield on those tend to make them next to impossible to clear through as well on this.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an uphill battle, I think, for New Dynasty. However, as we always see, sometimes these decks just steamroll right on through if you don't get the draws you want. I do think the Tar Creeper is going to prevent some of that from being the case this time around. However, a Maul being in hand is a big deal. If they decide to keep that, because that can get you, Divine Shield on your minions.
Right,
That can get you +1 attack if you've got a large board. So we can see that steamroll here. So it's definitely not. I think the matchup's like 55-45. So it's not completely so unfavored that you despair here. But
yeah, and it's a little unfavored on paper for the odd Paladin, but I think the amount of teching that Nordavind has done with this priest is probably going to push that even further away from the Paladin from New Dynasty. And this opening hand from New Dynasty hurts. Double Vine Cleaver is not what you want to see in this early game.
Double Vine Cleaver on top of having the Maul, so you have no minion that you're able to put, and then a Wild Pyromancer boot. This is just, they've got the Dustbreaker in hand. The Scale Worm is not a dragon, so there's no activator, but any dragon coming into hand is going to be a big deal here. Having the Tar Creeper is just a lot of uphill battling for the Odd Paladin right now. I do like this play though, being able to get that Blessing of Might there onto the Righteous Protector is a big play, and it's going to do some damage over the next.
Priest to answer the 4/1 with Divine Shield. The Pyromancer can't even activate. The Dustbreaker's a turn away, and that's only one source of damage, so it doesn't clear the minion. The fourth weapon coming into hand run. Oh man, and none of these they're both the +1 attack Maul, which not really. I mean, this actually could be helpful in this specific board state, but they really wanted to see some more development than this.
Yeah, and we do see them reach for that Maul. Yeah. I mean, I like it. It allows them to be able to clear this Tar Creeper and push some damage to face. But that Dustbreaker being there is a good resource. The Scale Worm, even the Twilight Drake, just being able to clear stuff. And the second Dustbreaker, it's as if Nordavind said to Blizzard, "Hey, I need all my board clears early, so I can just develop lots of stuff." And that's exactly.
Man, look at this! Now that that Dusky Boy came off the top, Nordavind, of course, played the one from the top to kind of try to feint the fact that they have both now in hand. But this 4-weapon hand from New Dynasty just is making this turn 4 development just feel absolutely inept. They're gonna drop what they can, but this is not a lot of pressure in the face of this priest.
And the raid leader finally showing up for them here. And it's in a horrible position right now. It's not the answer they needed off the top, and it's been a minute since we've seen that, if at all, this round. So that's really what they needed to see in other turns to be able to clear and stuff. So, but lots of answers here for Nordavind to just be able to push damage. I mean, they could do Twilight Drake. They've got Scale Worm to get something out. They probably leave that Dustbreaker in hand. Cinder, what do you think on this board state?
I think I would like to see the Dustbreaker get held. The Scale Worm would be a nice development for the Priest. I think it leaves a big minion. It is going to leave 2 1/1s on the board and kind of play a calculated risk that there's no Fungal Mancer in hand. But if they do it, they're going to get rewarded unless that Fungal Mancer comes off the top. So yeah, here comes the Scale Worm. They're just going to do this and trade away. Oh, okay, and they're going to trade away one of the tokens to kind of make sure that the Fungal Mancer gets no
I like it.
No value. Yeah.
I like it. And we see that second raid leader coming off. But yet again, resources on no board is just not where you want to be.
Right.
As New Dynasty, as the Odd Paladin. You want to put those down when you know you're going to get the most value out of it. And just getting 1 extra damage.
Yeah, just not enough.
Oh,
It's
awful.
It's like not even a 3/3. It's like a 3/2 in stats when you've only got one minion on board to benefit from it. So New Dynasty looking at playing some defense here, maybe using this Maul to clear the Scale Worm. But again, it's going into the mid game for the Priest. Oh no, they're gonna go face. I actually kind of like this.
Yeah, it's gonna push some counter pressure and make them forward. If there is the Drake.
Drake comes into hand. And we're hearing from production. We got another result coming in as we watch this turn 6 from the Priest just secure this board from the Odd Paladin. Looks like Swagoi Gaming versus M&M Gaming has resolved. The score in that matchup, that very important matchup in the Swiss, is 3-1 in favor of M&M Gaming. So Swagoi, a promising new team, was looking forward to a good result here in House Rivalries. So they're gonna have to win their next match in order to stay alive in this tournament. But for now, Odd Paladin coining up that Vine Cleaver, clearing off some damage, and having to put those tokens into that Wild Pyromancer run. That is painful.
Oh, and then we see an actually very good pickup here with that Shadow Visions. I'm like, there really isn't anything that Nordavind can do wrong here. Maybe playing out that Dustbreaker, but they Shadow Visions into something that's going to clear the board, allow them to push some more damage face, maybe pick up that last Mind Blast in there. Boy, this is just looking worse and worse for New Dynasty.
Yeah, and they opened this match with a win. Things looked good. They had a strategy to handle the Hunter from Nordavind, and Nordavind has friends and teammates that are no stranger to playing some Hunter. So it hurts to have that Hunter get a win. So because now they're in a terrible predicament. 9 health. You never want to be on the back foot against a control deck going into the late game, and that's exactly where they find themselves. Another board clear, another threat on board developed. New Dynasty's just out of options.
Yes, and Liam off the top really is not an answer. Stonehill or something along those lines, but this is rough here. Only pushing 4 damage face, not having a great big board. This helps in this position because we know that they can push some serious damage in the following turns, and I like this play. It does put pressure. However, seeing that Drake in hand, we know that this is just not going to work out the way that they had wanted.
No, I assuming they play it, this Drake probably just going to shut the door on New Dynasty. 9 health. On the back foot. I agree. I like just trying to develop as much as you can. That between the Vine Cleaver and the Hero Power, you're putting down 4 tokens a turn. plenty of resources in hand to accelerate damage once you've secured a board, but Nordavind is just not allowing them to stick a board. They just continue to have answer after answer and continue putting more pressure on the paladin. So nearly checkmate here for the priest. We just kind of have to wait for them to put all the pieces together before they can call this a game, because it's not quite over yet.
I mean, you can see them really thinking over this turn. I like the thought process. I do like that they end up deciding to put that Drake down. Oh,
That is hilarious. Hyreek the Bat, a
Hyreek.
Warlock legendary, comes out of one of Liam's transformations.
Interesting.
But it's just not. It's not going to be enough here.
No.
They'll be able to clear the Drake by a combination of Raid Leader and Fungalmancer, but all Nordavind just needs a single point of damage from
Single point.
the deck.
Yeah, which we see that as of right now, Nordavind doesn't have any form of damage that can do that, but we see that Anduin, it's a 2-turn lethal here without some serious answers, and the Odd Paladin just doesn't run any type of healing. So sitting at this health total with a Drake on board is pretty scary. You've got Anduin for some answers here, but
Shadow
it could
Visions
go either way.
Shadow Visions could also provide. They got both of them in hand now, so
Double
this
Shadow Visions.
single Mind Blast will do it. They got 2 tries at it. Let's see if they because the other option is the Anduin, but they have to do it now. They're at 10 health. New Dynasty has finally developed a board, so they have to deliver lethal here or else.
Yeah, because we do see that this Anduin would leave about 4 damage on the board with a trade. Here we have the Raid Leader in hand, as well as the Vine Cleavers in hand as well. So they have some ways to push some damage, and we have no idea what might come off the top since Liam went into the deck. So I think they're gonna have to go ahead and try to see what answers they get. And Snap Pick tells us that Mind Blast was grabbed there, and it looks like Nordavind's gonna go ahead and take this 3-2.
Wow.
2.
They must have been sweating bullets that entire match. They started off on the back foot, had to come back in game 2 to equalize the series, and they went back and forth to a game 5, and finally got themselves into a winning position. So Nordavind gonna go ahead and take that one away and go up to 2-3 in the Swiss. Hope still barely alive for them. New Dynasty, though, probably out of the running now mathematically. So we're going to be setting up our analysts now to consider their thoughts on the match. So, Livian, hand it over to the analysts, if you don't mind.
There we go. Here we are back again. Green Tree, Rebubson, and myself, Livian. I heard some choice words about the games last series. Green Tree, what's your overall impression of this?
Overall, I think that Nordavind played pretty well. I didn't see any blatant mistakes from them. They played quite solidly. But on the other hand, I think New Dynasty, I think they really had trouble on the Odd Paladin deck, to be honest. Like, both trying to get a win with it, but also like the technical play as well. There's some things that we want to point up on. I think Rebobson has a few notes taken down.
I think like the most, So we've kind of been, we were discussing this throughout the series that was going on. But before we start, I just want to say how amusing it is to me that before the game we were absolutely bashing on that Odd Mage. It won its first game, and then Odd Paladin got 3-0'd. But in the game of Odd Paladin versus Mid-Range Hunter, which is supposedly a fantastic matchup for the Odd Paladin, you'd expect to win that most of the time. There were just a few turns where we were kind of, it seemed like New Dynasty weren't really planning their future turns ahead. They were just kind of playing some cards and kind of hoping for the best, and just not kind of considering either what Nordavind would do on their turn or what they would be doing on their following turn. So like the most obvious one was they played Stonehill Defender on turn 3. They were offered a choice of a Stubborn Gastropod, a Bronze Gatekeeper, and the Lich King. They already had a Vine Cleaver in hand, they already had a Frostwolf Warlord in hand, and they already had a Fungomancer in hand. So their hand was pretty heavy, and they didn't really have any follow-up for their turn 4. So what we're discussing is they also had Blessing of Might in hand. So one play would have been, I think, to take Bronze Gatekeeper, play a Blessing of Might on it, and it would protect the existing dudes on the board, set up for a guaranteed Fungomancer. Or they could have played Stubborn Gastropod, which would have ended up protecting the dudes from the Rhino, which got played on turn 5, and play that alongside the Hero Power. Would have curved out nicely again into the Fungal Monster or maybe the Frostwolf Warlord. But what happened was they instead opted for the Lich King, which was still in their hand when they conceded, having not actually got to 8 mana yet. So that one struck us as a little bit odd. And the other one was on the 2 turns after that, on turn 5. Now, Sheep, going into a Hunter's turn 6, what card are you scared of?
I mean, it's a very obvious one. It's that big giant Deathstalker Exar, isn't it?
Exactly. So you what they did going on turn 5 was they played Lost in the Jungle and Hero Powered and just called it at that. Bearing in mind that they had the opportunity of holding onto that Lost in the Jungle, they could have just played a Frostwolf Warlord as a 5-mana 5/5 as just like a body to contest the board. But what happened is, obviously, the 4 Silverhand recruits all got blown up by Rexar, and that was kind of the turning point of the game. They never really recovered from that, because on their turn 6, they didn't again just didn't have anything to do, as their possible play of Lost in the Jungle, Fungal Monster had just kind of been thrown away for almost nothing going into the Rexar turn. There were kind of examples of that sort of lack of planning from New Dynasty in all 3 of the Odd Paladin losses. Like I was just not very kind of happy with the overall level of the Odd Paladin play at all.
Okay, so with this, New Dynasty is out of the tournament. But there were other games as well. We have Oslo Lions beating Helsinki Reds 3-0, which means that Oslo Lions now is the first in the standings, together with Intrepid Fox, who unfortunately for them lost 2-3 to Royal Blue Esports. On the other hand, we have M&M Gaming beat Swagoi Gaming 3-1. So sorry, Ribobson, must hurt for you a bit. And Sector 1 getting a default win over ENS, because ENS is already out of the tournament, so they decided not to play the rest of their games. So production just told me that Royal Blue, Oslo Lions, and Intrepid Fox all made the top 3 and are already qualified for the playoffs. So they are only playing for seeding. Back to and we're still waiting for the results of Epic Esports versus Gamers Origin, so we'll give you that later. Back to the game we just saw for a bit. What advice would you give New Dynasty if they were to play a team league like this again, or tournaments in general? Green Sheep.
Since I obviously don't know what the communications like, I think that so it's kind of obvious that they weren't that confident on the Odd Paladin as they were on, say, the other decks such as the mid range hunter. So I think as a whole, maybe it's good if you specify or assign roles for each player. Like one person can focus on the aggro decks, one person can focus on the control decks, and one person focus on something else, maybe the combo decks. Just to make sure that like you have all the areas of the decks you're playing covered, because like maybe they were all like hunter experts, but for leagues like such as this or just tournaments in general, it's very good to diversify and just expand your knowledge on all the decks, because you might not you definitely don't know what you're going to be playing every single week. You have to basically adapt to the situation. So it's just play more Hearthstone in general. That's my tip.
Okay, and one question for Rebobson. Nordevin still in on the brink of destruction, I'd say, because if they lose, they're out. What should they do differently? Do they have to do anything differently? Did you see any large misplays or disagree maybe with the decks?
Well, if I did disagree with the decks that they had brought, it's a bit late to change that going into the final round, as they do still have to play the same
That's definitely
decks.
true.
But like Sheep said when in his kind of analysis of the way the two teams played, I thought Nordavin's play was just fine. They haven't brought the most out there lineup. They've brought obviously even Warlock, Control Priest, Midrange Hunter. The Togwaggle Druid is a bit surprising to me, especially as it is the Azalina variant rather than the kind of Hakar variant we've grown a bit more accustomed to seeing. So it's very much an old school build, but they seem to have just brought decks that they are comfortable in playing. They seem to know what they were doing. They did get a little bit unlucky in both of their even Warlock losses, as the draws were horrifically bad. It's worth saying in the two games that they did lose. So I think if Nordavin carry on playing the same way that they did in that match, they should do just fine. And with only a small amount of bias, I just hope that they don't do that against Swagway, because they will both be, those two teams are both now on 2-3 playing for a spot in contention.
Okay, so with that, the last match that's going on is Epic Esports versus Gamers Origin, and I think Lights is playing all on her own, and it's 2-2. So Lights literally 1-3-3ing that. We have to wait for a bit before until that match ends. So we go to short break, and then when we'll be back, we have more games and the result of this match. So see you soon. welcome back everyone to House Rivalries. Rivalries, what a hard word to say. This is the last round of the Swiss that we have here. It's round 6. We have two teams that are 3-2, which are Helsinki Reds and M&M Gaming. I'm here together with Cinder, Ascendant, and Run, he said. Whatever you prefer. Okay, so the winner of this match is through to the playoffs, and the loser has to play a decider match after this. Who do you favor? Helsinki Reds or M&M? Cinder Ascendant.
Well, we were looking at the matchups prior to coming online here, and Helsinki's decks look fairly poorly lined up against this aggressive lineup from M&M. M&M had their control priest banned, so it's a full aggro lineup now. Mid-range hunter, even Paladin's a bit more of a mid-range deck, but it's a very aggressive deck in applying pressure. And then Zoo Warlock's the last one up against Control Priests, Cube Warlock, and Death Rattle Hunter. And that Death Rattle Hunter is going to have a heck of a hard time against these very aggressive decks from M&M. So I think Helsinki's probably on the back foot here.
Run, explain to me, why does Death Rattle Hunter have a hard time against these decks?
Death Rattle Hunter tends to be more of a late game. You're looking set turn 6 and 7 to really be your kind of swing turns, with Rexar coming down to clear boards, with Katharina on 8. A lot of your big turns happen late in the game, and it can be hard for the Death Rattle Hunter to really come into its own until those turns. And that means that these decks that want you dead by turn 5, 6 are really going to give this Death Rattle Hunter a run for its money. We do know, though, that they've actually teched this more towards the aggro. They included Loot Hoarders and Doomsayers to try to get around this aggro. So we'll see if these tech choices are actually going to do what they wanted them to do when they put them in there.
Okay. So the Odd Paladin got banned. Cinder, do you agree with that ban?
I honestly I think that M&M's biggest challenge in Helsinki's lineup is actually going to be the Control Priests. So I'm kind of surprised that they went with the Odd Paladin ban, because the Odd Paladin is gonna be a little bit tough against the Zoo Warlock, because the Zoo Warlock just puts out a little bit more board value, a little bit more pressure than the Odd Paladin can handle. But the Control Priest is just can just run the table on aggressive board centric decks. So I'm kind of surprised that they did that. Odd Paladin's still a good ban. That being said, it's still a very powerful deck against other board centric decks. But I just feel like the Control Priest might have been, at least on the percentages, a little bit better for them.
Okay, so before we start the game, Cinder, what score is it going to be?
I'm going to say 3-1 M&M.
Run?
Exactly what I was going to say, Cinder. 3-1.
Well, in that case, let's see how it turns out. Rebubson, Green Sheep, take it away.
Let's get the show on the road. So just wait
Yeah.
for the players to get started. And Sheep, we just had our analysts saying what they think is going to happen. And in the previous series, we saw some questionable Odd Paladin play. So how are you feeling about the decision to ban it? Happy?
I mean, even if it's bad Odd Paladin play, I still want to see some Odd Paladin, so not entirely happy that they banned it. And I don't actually quite agree the reason why they banned it, to be honest, because M&M, they have an aggro lineup. Odd Paladin's pretty good against aggro lineups because it's probably the best anti-aggro deck. But looking at their zoo list, they do have double Despicable Dreadlord. I also don't think that the even Paladin matchup's that bad. And also, Hunter can be bad, but as we saw in the last series, it actually managed to take the win. So I
But
agree that maybe
Sheep.
the priest should have been banned instead.
Yeah, but Sheep, they don't have Revenge of the Wild in the Hunter, so clearly it doesn't stand a chance.
Oh, clearly.
That's just the way things work. So we're getting on right into the game in just a second. Going to see what the two teams have elected to start with. And we can see that Helsinki Reds have gone for their Control Priest, and M&M Gaming are going to start off with their Zoo Warlock. And Sheep, I assume this is a matchup that you've played a lot of in your time. How do you think this one goes?
Draw Kalsef and win. That's how Zoo works, right? But all in all, as an aggro deck goes, if you have an explosive early start, then you normally win the game. But if it gets to like turn 6, turn 7, you haven't got that much done, then the priest will be able to get back control of the game with the psychic screams. If you can't kill them after like turn 6, turn 7, then I'd say the game's normally done because, like, as I said before, there's Despicable Dreadlords in this list, there's no Doom Guards, so there's limited reach. It does have the Leroy Jenkins, but it's not that much damage, and the priest has various ways of staying safe and healing back up.
Yep, of course, priests, what they do is heal. But they don't really have much to be going on with now, and to start things off, they go with a Tempo Fire Tree Witch Doctor, just as the 2/2, don't discover a spell from it, and what they've kind of done here is they've told Eminem that there's not only no Duskbreaker, there's not even an activator for a Duskbreaker in their hand. So what do you make of that decision?
Yeah, it's quite a big information leak from their half, but I don't think there's much they could have done. The Fire Tree Witch Doctor does actually trade off the Light Warden on board, and it's only really the Void Walker that stops. For the Helsinki Red side, they do have the Void Walker, and just keeps the Light Warden safe along with the Flame Imp, allowing for a big turn next turn with the Fungal Enchanter buffing up the Light Warden and potentially more.
Yeah, that Light Warden is going to become 5 attack on the following turn, whether whether Helsinki Reds elect to make this trade or not, as Eminem can just make the trade themselves before playing the Fungal Enchanter. And knowing that there's no Duskbreaker in hand, they're going to feel very good about the coin Fungalmancer. What'd you say?
Yeah, looking at Helsinki Red side, they definitely need the Duskbreaker in the following turn. Otherwise, they're going to be in big trouble. But even if they do draw a Duskbreaker, they actually don't have a Dragon activator, so it won't even be good.
Yeah, they are in a world of hurt.
The Zoo is literally going to steamroll this game. The Fungal Enchanter's coming down. I don't think there's actually any answer board on the next turn for Helsinki Reds, and as you said, Coin Fungalmancer and
Coin Fungalmancer, of course, shuts out the possibility of the Duskbreaker as well, because you're going to buff at least 2 minions out of range. And do you think you put this Fungal Enchanter? Yep, I like the placement here, putting it on the far left because they want to Fungalmancer on the 3/3 and the 5/2. That's going to be a 7/4 Light Warden sheep.
yeah, there's just nothing going for Helsinki Reds. They the Scale Worm, no dragons.
4 mana 4/4s, just
It's
not
so
good.
reliant on dragons. I mean, they do run quite a lot of dragons: 2 Duskbreakers, 2 Primordial Drakes, 2 Twilight Drakes. But if you don't draw those dragons, then this priest deck really just doesn't do anything.
So do we still go with the Coin Fungalmancer here, or does the Voodoo Doctor kind of change your mind and maybe heal up the Voidwalker, still buff the Light Warden, play a Tar Creeper to protect your minions further, and still just keep pushing with this Light Warden, the Flame Imp, and the Fungal Enchanter? They've got options.
I think I still like the Fungalmancer. Just getting the Fungalmancer down instantly. It's 4 more power on board. You can take the value trade with the Fungal Enchanter onto, say, the Scale Worm, and then push the rest of the damage. The Light Warden is still being protected by this Void War, unless there is a Wild Pyromancer coming down.
Interestingly enough, though, now that you say that, this version of Control Priest does not run Wild Pyromancer. Oh, and I like this placement of the Fungalmancer over what we said on the previous turn, I think. Eminem have elected to play it on the Voidwalker, meaning that the Scale Worm has to make trades, and the Witch Doctor would have to just hit into the Flame Imp, which would still leave lethal on board. And yeah, there was just absolutely nothing that Helsinki Reds could do there. They got absolutely steamrolled and just drew completely dead.
As I said, if Zoo can't win by turn 5, turn 6, then they probably lose the game, but we won at turn 5. So, seen in that game.
Easy.
Easy.
Zoo just kind of showing that even though it's fallen out of favor a little bit, but it's still the fact that it's just been completely unaffected by nerfs in any way recently means that it's still just a powerful deck, and people just kind of forgot about it. Do you think it's still a deck worth playing in the current meta game?
I think in certain lineups it does have its merits, such as this lineup is very aggressive. Definitely know what Eminem are looking to do here. They just have 3 aggressive decks plus an anti-aggro deck. Just mainly they're looking to prey against say the hunters, especially like Death Rattle hunters, as seen from Helsinki Red's side. Maybe they brought the zoo directly to target that. Maybe they just had the hard read that Helsinki Reds were going to bring a deck such as Death Rattle Hunter, which is very susceptible to aggro decks.
But they did not know that they would be playing against Helsinki Reds. The teams only
maybe they
use
just
their
knew.
first opponents. Maybe they just made the read that Death Rattle Hunter would be a fairly popular deck. We're getting into game number 2 now. Helsinki Reds are going to be playing their mid-range. No, yes. The reason we were so confused there is because Helsinki Reds are playing Death Rattle Hunter, and what we saw there was a mid-range hunter. They did queue up the wrong deck. Not exactly sure what's
So a slight
happening
hiccup, but
there.
I assume it'll be the same matchup as we saw probably the Paladin against the Death Rattle Hunter. Just re-queue it back up.
Yep, I assume that's what's going to happen. Not 100% sure. We'll let admin deal with that. But assuming it is the Death Rattle Hunter versus the Even Paladin from Eminem, again, would you say that's a pretty happy matchup for Eminem to be facing up against?
I like to think so. Yeah. If it was the mid-range Hunter, then it would be a bit tougher time for the Even Paladin.
So
actually, the Toastmaster is going to decide to queue up the mid-range Hunter here.
Now, the correct team have queued up their mid-range Hunter. M&M are bringing it, while Helsinki Reds are not, and they are going to be playing their Death Rattle Hunter once again. And we see some of the anti-aggro tech that Run and Cinder were speaking about before the match. Helsinki Reds do run copies of Doomsayer, double Doomsayer at that, and 2 copies of Mind Control tech. Do you think that is going to be enough to kind of ward off these aggressive decks from Eminem, or will they need a bit more?
I think looking at it right now, if Doomsayer is actually going to do quite a lot of work, we're going to equip this Candle Shot probably turn 1, but we have a very nice curve here. We have the Doomsayer on turn 2, which normally would be like a Kaliseth in this spot, but Kaliseth, sure, it'll be okay, but it wouldn't do as much as Doomsayer would in this specific scenario, because it basically prevents a turn 3 play coming down. There's actually 0 silences in the mid-range hunters. There's actually no way to deal with this Doomsayer very efficiently. So Doomsayer, most likely it'll activate, and then Helsinki Reds can just follow up with this Devil Soul Egg, and hopefully they draw an activator for it.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about this tracking, because this is a brutal tracking. Master's Call, Dire Frenzy, and Scavenging Hyena, all fantastically powerful cards when you're looking to be the aggressor as a mid-range hunter. And I think Master's Call probably a good pick as just the extra reach it gives you, but losing the Scavenging Hyena and the Dire Frenzy's got to hurt.
Yeah, it definitely does, but there's a chance you get the second Scavenging Hyena, so it's not all waste. Master's Call is very strong, especially in these turns, since you weren't doing anything.
And there it is. Yep, and there it is. There is the second copy of Scavenger. It just seems Master's Call every single time draws Scavenging Hyena and Crackling Razormaw, and usually Spring Pour as well. They're like the kind of holy triumvirate.
Yeah, but there aren't that many beasts in the deck, so they're bound to hit at least one.
Ooh. Helsinki Reds choose the Spider Bomb over the Devil Saw Egg, I guess thinking that as they don't currently have an activator, the egg has a possibility of just getting stranded. The Spider Bomb makes things a little bit more awkward for Eminem, who now have to kind of deal with this Spider Bomb while not before they can develop themselves. And as a lot of mid-range hunters' power spikes come from things like the Hyena Springpaw plays, or indeed just a copy of Flanking Strike we see in the hand, it's a little awkward for them to deal with, and the Flanking Strike
Yeah, it would just
will
die.
just kind of equalize the board for both players. And
Yeah, it's just a 1-for-1 trade, basically.
yeah, but I think it's a 1-for-1 trade that does kind of favor the Death Rattle Hunters. The longer this game goes on in this fashion, the better the Death Rattle Hunter is going to feel about their chances of winning.
Yep, definitely. But with this hand, there's not much going on the Death Rattle Hunter side. I think maybe you have to play down another Spider Bomb just to buy another turn. The Witchwood Grizzly is actually quite weak here because there's so many. Actually, from the Master's Call, there's so many cards in the Mid-Range Hunter's hand that it's only going to be what, a 3/5?
Yeah, it's going to be a 3/5, which is just, like you say, very weak. Just dies to kill command. But having seen the difficulty that Eminem had dealing with one Spider Bomb, why not just throw out another one?
Yeah.
It's acting as a kind of, it's not acting as board removal as it often does. Instead, it's acting as a stall tool for Helsinki Reds to draw into their really powerful late game. Looking to draw things like Katharina, particularly, or Deathstalker XR, start generating some serious late game value, which the mid-range hunter just can't really deal with. Because M&M Gaming have only done 2 damage to Helsinki Reds, and we're on turn 5.
Definitely not where you want to be as a Hunter. And this turn as well, you don't really want to use any of these cards to clear off the Spider Bomb. Like the Wing Blast, do you really want to use that for 4 mana? The kill command normally goes face. So what are we really going to do here? You don't want to sacrifice the Hunter right either, so I think maybe it will have to be that Wing Blast or even like double Springpaw and try and develop some minions behind.
Nope, we're going to see a kill command and a tempo Crackling Razor Maw. Both plays which just feel absolutely awful if you're in Eminem's position, and Flanking Strike here just does the job. The 3/6 Witchwood Grizzly, Helsinki Reds will be thinking a little bit harder about this now that they've drawn the Carnivorous Cube, but I think they still want, it's got such a good chance of dying as a 3/6. They want Eminem to expend some more resources before they think about playing that down.
I think I like the Flanking Strike here because you could even Carnivorous Cube down the 3/3 Wolf next turn just to make sure that the cube has something inside of it. It's not that big of a deal, but it helps build up the board presence a bit. It helps regain control you need.
Yeah, against that mid-range hunter, a few 3/3s will often just contest their minions really well, as they run a lot of charging 1/1s or 3/2 raids and more. The only thing it doesn't really kill is the Tundra Rhino, but then you've still got something on board to contest it, crucially. And they are going for the Witchwood Grizzly here, and this, I think this play opens things up a bit for Eminem to do something.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now they have a variety of options. They could go for, say, like the Tundra Rhino, just set that up, trade in the Crackling Razor and Wing Strike. Wing Blast, the
Wing Blast
Witchwood
is the one
Grizzly?
the card is called, if you're not
Yeah,
too
I don't see
familiar
it
with
often,
it.
to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a new inclusion to this deck. It's quite a good
Yeah.
removal.
Yeah, after the nerf to Hunter's Mark, what some people have been toying around with is running a copy of Wing Blast instead of the copies of Hunter's Mark. Just kind of to get that cheap pseudo removal effect that they both provide. But Eminem, looks like they might be going for some kind of hyena play here.
Yep, trying to get the poisonous, so we hit the
off
poisonous.
the links, and they do indeed get it.
They could just play down the animal companion here, and next turn go for the, say, Tundra Rhino Scavenging Hyena, because it's quite good mana utilization, and we could get a Misha here, which protects the Razor more. But we got a Hoffa, and whoa, turn 6, you know what this is. Oh, not quite.
Yeah, we didn't see the punish in quite the same vein that we saw in the previous series on stream, but the flanking strike with the candle shot, still just fantastic. And Helsinki Reds have held onto this coin, and they just drew Katharina. And that is coin Katharina on 7 is just the play you want to make every single time.
You're also on a very healthy life total, 21 at turn 7, and mid-range Hunter just hasn't done a lot this game. They've been stifled by the Doomsayers, by the Spider Bombs, and here it is, Katharina coming down. If we hit, say, one of the big...
The King Crush would be fantastic here, or the other copy of Witch Grizzly, again, good.
Yeah, but there's also a copy of Armani Warbear.
Yeah, so what Helsinki Reds have opted for in their list is, as their 4th beast, they are running a copy of Armani Warbear. They don't run Undasta or Charged Devilsaur. But with one Witchwood Grizzly having been played, the chances of something which can directly impact the board are 2 out of 3 currently. But I just want to say, I really like how M&M approached the last turn. Often what you want to do as a mid-range hunter is double threat. So if you have a Tundra Rhino and a Scavenging Hyena, you create this position for your opponent where they want to kill one of them. The Warbear comes out from Katharina Winterwisp, and while the Rhino is still alive, that is the 2nd Scavenging Hyena done. So the kind of threat that comes from this Tundra Rhino has diminished by quite a lot.
This is quite a rough turn for Toast Monster and Crew, M&M Gaming. They have not a lot going. They have another Tundra Rhino, but since you already have a Tundra Rhino, you don't really want the second one. You'd rather have like something big that you can charge to the face already. But
yeah, and that's why killing the 2nd Scavenging Hyena is just so important. It's important to note that the first Scavenging Hyena was lost to tracking, so Helsinki Reds are unaware that it has been lost, but M&M will be, I'm sure, in this position, very aware that they do not have particularly great options here, and just charging a couple of 1-drops here.
Yeah, they basically try and go for the final push, but the Deathstalker Rexar was picked up last turn by Helsinki Reds, and I feel like this Deathstalker Rexar will be the final nail in the coffin, basically. They stalled this long, and they managed to draw the cards they needed, finally.
Yep. M&M really need a copy of Rexar themselves very soon, and even then I'm not sure it'll be enough.
Yeah, they used a lot of the range already. They already used a kill command. They only have 1 left. And though they do have this Tundra right now, they just don't have that many minions to charge into the face.
Yeah, they've used both Razor Maws, both Scavenging Hyenas, I believe both, 1 Timberwolf, and I think both Spring Paws, although, yeah, both Spring Paws as well. And Helsinki Reds pick up a Tundra Rhino of their own, I think, and they can even make one that has stealth. But one that has Wind Fury, also good.
Dire Frenzy, okay, here we go.
There is still hope.
Big Rhinos.
Big Rhinos can do something, but there's still just this Katharina Winterwisp, which is still very scary. And if you make a big Rhino, she can pop open, and then King Crush can come out, or Witchwood Grizzly can come out. Neither of those are fantastic news if you are M&M Gaming, and Helsinki Reds will be able to just finish things off with their own Tundra Rhino. And Tundra Rhino is a lot scarier when there's Deathstalker Rexar behind it.
Yeah, you just stick that Rhino on board. Everything you make, just going for the face.
Yeah, just a Bittertide Hydra with lifesteal, go straight to the face. You just make a multitude of 8 mana minions just hitting away. Right, so this Katharina is now guaranteed to pull Witchwood Grizzly, as King Crush has just been picked up, but
that's huge.
M&M are in the position now where... Yep. M&M are now in the position where Kill Command, Hero Power is lethal if there is a beast on the board.
And I think As Unetsky and Helsinki Reds, we're just gonna have to dig for something that heals you, because you do have this zombies Tundra Rhino down. You know you're gonna pull a taunt, so you basically just need something for next. Hoping you don't die, and you just want to heal up.
Not dying is, of course, crucial.
You could also tracking for, say, I think there is one Ziliax in the deck, so I would quite like to see that.
Yep, nice order there from Helsinki Reds. Tracking after playing Katharina, just in case tracking did hit that Witchwood Grizzly, so it doesn't get pulled from the deck. Now the race is on, essentially.
Yeah, they did pick up a playdead. I think the main reason is because you can get the Beetle from Builder Beast, and since the Beetle is a death roll, you just go for the playdead.
Greed Sheep, look at these options. Two of the 3 buffed Rhinos and the second copy of Kill Command.
We do have to take that Kill Command, though.
We absolutely do.
But I think we might just die.
Yeah.
This is a Wind Fury Zombies Tundra Rhino, a Witchwood Grizzly, and this is a Carnivorous Cube Playdead. And let's count up how much damage that's 12 more damage, plus what's on board 9. That's exact lethal. Just with the Carnivorous Cube and the Playdead, if I'm not wrong.
Wait, let me just count. So that's 9 damage. Then
Plus 12.
Well, looks like Helsinki Reds are going straight for it. They trust your judgment, it seems.
Yeah, they can also play down this 2 free zombies and charge that out too for 2 overkill.
Yep, but that is going to be exact lethal. Eminem throw out the and crucially, Sheep, Death Rattle Hunter got its win.
Yeah, that was a really tough matchup, and they managed to pull through.
Yep, they stalled just long enough in the early game. They were on 28 health at turn 5, and that was long enough. Drawing Katharina on turn 6, it was, when they still had hold on to the coin for the entire game, was absolutely massive. Just the fact that they were able to pull that Amani Warbear, which could both act as a taunt and also kill the second copy of Scavenger Cane, was absolutely massive. Now we're getting into game 3. Helsinki Reds are going to be hoping that they can draw a little bit better with the Control Priest this game than they did in the first game against the...
Zoo.
What deck was it? It was the Zoo, of course, thank you. And Eminem just hoping that they can get a much more explosive start with the mid-range hunter this time around.
So we do see an Animal Companion, which is quite good against the Priest.
Alright, so just a little update from what is happening elsewhere. Epic Esports have just beaten Royal Blue Esports. So Epic Esports are now 3 and 3? No, Epic Esports are now 4 and 2, which means that they are guaranteed through to the playoffs next week. Won't have to play another match today. And Royal Blue Esports were on 4 and 1 already, so they are another team at 4 and 2, guaranteed to make it through. Things are just heating up, Sheep. But
yeah,
back to the game at hand. This is
a cleric and a shield.
Yeah, it's very clunky from especially some decks much more than others, but this is a very clunky hand from M&M Gaming. Double Master's Call, Dire Frenzy, Flanking Strike, all kind of very awkward tools to use, and when they want to be the aggressor, as you do in this matchup, a little bit awkward.
Yeah, I think, as we can see here, we just have to coin out one of the 3 drops. Next turn we Master's Call and play out our hand. And that is not the Animal Companion we want right here.
That is very much the worst outcome. And letting Control Priest draw cards is Just terrifying.
Yeah, if it was one of the other two, say like, even a Hofer, if he would, the cleric would have to bump into the Hofer, it'd take 4 damage, heal back up, then the Hofer could trade into it. But as it's a Leok
Hofer.
right now, you definitely can't see that happen.
Yeah, and having coined out this animal companion, there's not even the option of the flanking strike combined with the Leok to deal with this. And there is just nothing Eminem can do with this. This cleric is going to draw another card, guaranteed.
Yeah, unless they want to just develop a Twilight Drake instead or something like that. But drawing cards is quite nice.
Drawing a card while also developing the Fire Tree Witch Doctor and discovering a spell when Twilight Drake is the only activator in hands, I think seems pretty appealing. Especially when Master's Call has come out. Helsinki Reds are very aware of the fact that they don't currently have Dustbreaker in hand, and if they play Twilight Drake, they lose their only activator. What we saw in Game 1 was the perils of not having a Dragon activator in your hand, and I don't think they're going to be repeating that willingly anytime soon.
Yeah, as you said, they just go for the Fire Tree Witch Doctor right
wow.
here.
Look at these options
There's
if you
some
have a
good
cleric
healing
on the
cards.
board. If you have a cleric on the board, which these Circle of Healing here can draw 2 cards if they want
Yeah,
to,
they
but
just go
mine him,
which is interesting.
and they pick up that crucial Dustbreaker as well.
I guess they understand that they probably don't need the cards right now. You might just want the Divine Hymn for later. They do
Healing
have
against Hunter is never that bad.
Yeah, healing is
you're
never that bad against aggro for sure.
Especially one which has a steady shot hero power.
Die Frenzy though. Makes
Their
it
frenzy
5.
on Leok is nothing to be sniffed at. Does let them finally deal with this cleric, or do you want to send 5 damage to the face? I think I like sending 5 damage to the face. Helsinki Ridge throw out a greetings emote there, as
Yeah.
I guess they like what they see.
But if you do send 5 damage to the face, how you the cleric? I think the cleric has to deal with eventually if you want to start developing your other beasts, so I can see the trade happening.
Yeah, you go either way. And Leok's just going back down to being a 2/4. It had its moment of power, and it's gone immediately.
Now we just made a Dracnoid operative.
I miss that card sheet.
Oh, that was a good card.
It was a card which single-handedly made Priest playable for the longest time.
I think that was the only time I actually really enjoyed Priest. I just slapped down a 5-mana 5/6. I took someone's Fireball and just got them.
I mean, there was nothing quite like discovering someone's Gul'dan and then playing it, having already discovered a Void Lord, which you'd played.
Against Pirate Warriors, you just take the Mortal Strikes, you take the Arcanite Reapers. Let's go.
The good time. The good old days. Eminem just need to find a way of dealing with this board, because right now they're being contested evenly on board and are even falling farther behind.
Yeah, they're just basically in cleanup mode right here. Just
Yeah,
try their best to clean everything up. The Springport does allow for it, with the Leok, allow for the trades to come in.
But ultimately,
Okay.
they
I thought
ultimately
they were
they,
going to misorder that. But they noticed at the end.
but ultimately you're an aggro deck playing control against a control deck. That's just not a good position to ever be in.
Yeah, I mean, Helsinki Red's just in cruise control right here. That turn was very quick. Just slapped down the Cabal Shadow Priest, took the 1/3, and yeah, we have board again.
Yep, and Eminem now need to deal with this once again. Every turn, Helsinki Reds are presenting a board which is slightly more powerful than Eminem, so they're having to keep spending their resources to deal with it, and eventually their resources are going to run out, and Helsinki Reds, theirs is the deck with the more substantial late game. They have Shadow Reaper Anduin, they have Alex Strauss, they have Mind Blasts.
I think at this point we really need Deathstalker Exile. Like, here we can make a very big Scavenging Hyena there is still one more Twilight Acolyte. And also there is Psychic Scream, so if we're ever in trouble, Psychic Scream's gonna come down, but I assume that it'll probably be Twilight Acolyte here because it's just so big.
It's just so big.
It's just giant.
Green Sheep 2019. Like, yeah, we can play a Twilight Acolyte and a Scale Worm here now. Comfortably trade into the Scavenging Hyena this turn.
We're still on
Make
28 HP.
Yeah, that's another downside to the way that M&M have been playing this. Because they've played so aggressively for board, they haven't used the hero power in I don't know how many turns. Another update from games happening elsewhere, one I'm very sad about, but Nordavind have swept Swagoi Gaming 3-0, meaning that Nordavind will be playing another series after this one to try and make some of the final playoff places, while Swagoi have been eliminated, having gone 2-4. So they are now out of the competition alongside New Dynasty and Ents. So back to the game.
Back to the game at hand, though.
Once again,
yeah,
they're taking the board. And if you're M&M, you've really got to be thinking about Alex Straza looking at this board going into 9 mana. That could put you down to 6.
Can you really do anything about it? I'm not sure.
I mean, I've got my doubts as well, Sheep. I've got my doubts as well.
So this is the play here. We're going to have to go for this Lynx with the Razormaw, hit the Poisonous, go for... And then we're still in a losing spot.
Yeah, because just look at how many cards Helsinki Reds still have.
Yeah.
They're
They
just
can
so
draw
far
with the
ahead.
Acolyte.
Yeah, Helsinki Reds have options for days, and the Hunter just was not able to ever get started this game. Helsinki Reds did do a fantastic job of just making life as awkward as possible for them. A Stealth Hyena, that
We're
can
going
indeed
for the
do something.
sneaky plays here.
The sneaky
Unfortunately, this
Hyena.
does die to the Dustbreaker. So not quite sneaky enough.
Not quite sneaky enough, but it's something. Although it is worth noting that Dustbreaker does not have an activator in hand right now, so we might see
That is
another
true.
couple-
Oh,
never mind. Whatever. This is just how the game goes sometimes.
Yeah, I think Amaran, after they see us Dustbreaker, they know their fate. It's not happening this game. We're gonna have to move on because they have used both Master's Call already. They have 0 refill left. They do have this Dire Frenzy, so maybe we make some big beasts, and hopefully the big beasts get there. But like, there's still a Twilight Acolyte. These big beasts are gonna turn into smaller beasts, and then you're gonna get hit in the face.
Yep. The face onslaught from the priest is inbound. This is how control priest kind of works. Just control, 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 aggression. Which is why we do sometimes see decks like Control Priest or Malagos Druid kind of pop into these aggro lineups every now and then. Because while they are ostensibly control or combo decks, they do still have a decent amount of aggressive potential. Oh, 26 health, Sheep. We're getting there.
We're getting there. This Primordial Drake can even make this Acolyte draw 2 cards.
Oh, God.
Ugh.
That good. And I think that's probably the best
Yeah,
option.
I quite like it. Drawing 2 cards, you clear off the 3/3. I mean, it's a 4/8 taunt, and you're still on 26 HP. You can be quite. You can use your life total as a resource still, and you also picked up this Divine Hymn on turn 2. I haven't needed to use it yet.
Oh, it was turn 4.
Oh yes, it's turn 4.
Oh, that is a fantastic pickup.
Ooh. Get out.
And guess what, Sheep? The board is clear again.
It's okay. We have this Tundra Rhino with the Diaphragm.
Tundra Rhino, Dire Frenzy, Timberwolf. No cards left. Completely at the mercy of your deck. And what they really want is Deathstalker Rexlover. If they play this Dire Frenzy on, I think, is this the second Tundra Rhino?
Yeah, I think
then
yeah.
I believe it is. And if they use the Dire Frenzy on the Tundra Rhino, obviously they want more Tundra Rhinos. Playing the second one and having it die is really detrimental to their overall game plan. But if they do play Dire Frenzy, then they lower their chances of drawing Deathstalker Rexar. Considering there are still 16 cards left in the deck, Dire Frenzy puts it up to 18. So up to 19, sorry. 16 plus 3. That is a like 5% chance to draw Rexar at that point.
I guess there is a small glimmer of hope.
Right.
There's no
Helsinki
undoing.
Reds, they're bored. They're throwing out the emotes now. They don't care.
They're bored. They want to get this done.
They know they've won this game, is the thing.
Yeah, I think like even without Anduin, like Cleric, you have this Fire Tree Witch Doctor, you have resources for days. Might even get that just with the Mind Blast, like start hitting face now and then, and oof.
Yeah, Helsinki Reds can do it just with board damage at this point. The
Yeah, you just Primordial Drake here. Clean this up.
Primordial Drake and Fire Tree Witch Doctor. Heal up the dude just in case there is a top deck Rexar inbound, which is kind of Eminem's only hope at this point. There we go.
There's the Rexar. Okay, we have a game.
I'm still
Kind
not even
of.
sure that we.
Yeah,
I don't
probably
think
not.
we. I don't think that. I think this is too late. I think
Yeah. It has to be
They
some
need
insane
something.
beast, but still, it's gonna be tough.
they
A
need
few
some.
poisonous bats on the way.
Yeah, they need multiple poisonous bloat bats, a lot of life steal, and then they need something that they can combine with Tundra Rhino, like
this is a
Flappy Bird with
poisonous
Wind
bloat
Fury.
bat, right off the bat, I believe. No, never mind.
Off the bat, eh?
Wait.
See what you did there. But these are not the options they are looking for. A loose specimen, a snow flipper penguin, just nothing really.
I thought we would get a psychic.
Inner Fire on the Primordial Drake.
Oh,
Let's go.
let's draw a few more cards.
And let's heal up to 30 while we're at it. This is just
Still.
absolutely disgusting.
Even
The hunter doesn't
play
have...
the Scale Worm down.
And there's Holy Fire as well. That means
So
that
we
there
have
is
15 damage in hand, classic.
15 burst. They're going down to 14. So unless there is... I don't even know what they could find from this Discover.
They even played around the Poisonous Bloat Bat. They held back on the Scale Worm.
And none of these are bloat bats. Subject 9, Helpless Hatchling, Halazi the Lynx. Not going to do anything in the slightest. Maybe if they find the Vilebrood Skitterer, which they don't.
It's a Blood
These are-
Worm. That's the pick. For the dead.
The pick is bottom right, concede, move on to
Bottom
the
right,
next
buddy.
game. Bottom right, buddy, indeed. This just isn't it. Tracking for this Tundra Rhino is, once again, not
We
going
can
to do it.
charge this Rhino to its death.
Yeah, we can put a 5-8 into an 8-8, and there we go. Eminem concede. So now that is 2-1.
Oof. The tables have
Yeah.
turned. Eminem were off to a great start. 1-0 in like, what, 3 minutes?
Something
No,
like
no,
that.
big
Yeah,
one.
but they took two hard fought victories against that mid range hunter. One of them was a pretty unfavored matchup with the Netherland hunter, but the control priest is, I think it's fairly 50-50. But both times Helsinki Reds just got it done, and that means that they have 2 attempts with their Q block to secure their place in next week's playoffs. Of course, the loser of this is not necessarily out. They're going to be at 3-3 and will play again to decide who goes through.
That's a Doomsayer.
Helsinki Reds teched in Doomsayer in their cube decks, and they've hit it on 2 both times, so off to a great start. And
You
Librarian,
have the one drop.
Librarian, you're just happy to see. And there's a little interesting nod to in this Q block to what we've kind of seen recently in Mechathune Warlock lists, and we do see cheaty ankle biters just to kind of help with the spell stones, help set up defiles, and look at this for an anti-aggro Q block hand.
This hand is what we all dread. We
as
have the
Hunter plays.
Cobalt, Librarian, the Defile, the Doomsayer, the Hellfire. I actually can't name a better hand apart from if we draw, say,
How about a second Librarian?
Spellstone off this Librarian. That's the best
and
draw.
then into Skull Voidlord. That's what we're looking for as the Q block. But this hand is just absolutely fantastic, and the fact that
If they have that, they should go buy a lottery ticket right after this game.
Yeah, they'll be thrilled. And looking at Eminem's hand, they had a 1-drop, and they do have double Animal Companion, but the Wing Blast in this matchup is just really not what they're looking for.
Even holding on to that Librarian, maybe saving it for a Defile later on.
Well, I think they want to hold on to 1 for Defile, and they want to have something to play proactively after they play the Doomsayer on the following turn. Doomsayer is going to shut off particularly Animal Companion. I think they'll be worried about. So even if there is a hero power here instead of a Crackling Rosamore or a Scavenging Hyena, wouldn't be surprised to see the Doomsayer anyway. Man, the Helsinki Reds really do not like Eminem taking their time with their turns.
Yeah, they just want to get it over and done with.
Yep, and there is the Crackling
Finish
Rosamore.
line in sight.
There's the possibility here, of course, of just going for that poisonous, that 1 in
9, I think.
Well, so it's
Is it
Yeah.
10 or 9?
it's 9 options,
Yeah, 9.
but you do get off. It's a 3 in 9 essentially,
Yeah, 3 and
so a
9.
1 in
Yeah,
3.
3 out of 9. Yeah, so it's a 1/3.
That's-
I think, I don't know, I kind of like going for it, to be honest. Oh,
Yeah,
turns
this
are
is-
occupied the following turns.
Yeah, I think I just like going for it here. This is a
It's a
Pretty
rough
good.
spot.
yeah. You hate seeing Doomsayer on 2 as an aggro deck. Always have done, always will. Helsinki Reds there tapping to try and get into Spellstone. Do pick up Blood Reaver Gul'dan, but not quite what they're looking for here. And Eminem can go for the Lynx Animal Companion if they want to here. Finally start developing onto the board.
I think that's most likely what we'll see, but good thing for Eminem. Helsinki Reds down to 20 HP. Hit them with 2 hero powers. They tapped a few times. Oh,
And
that's a
they got a
Huffer.
Huffer.
Okay, here we go.
That's some damage.
For the
That is
races.
damage right there.
And
Helsinki-
is this a coin faceless manipulator?
Coin faces manipulated trade. Doesn't feel great.
Yeah, but now there's Hellfire.
But they are indeed going for the Hellfire. Still holding onto the Librarian Defile. And we saw it in the previous match as well, Shoot. Just Warlocks not drawing Spellstones. Misha
I
would
was
be...
really hoping for a Huffer and a Wind Fury right there.
Yeah, Wind Fury Puffer is just the best feeling in the world. But I think Eminem will be thinking about, do they want to try and go for health or Divine Shield on this Misha to protect it from a possible Spellstone, having seen a Librarian and a Hellfire? Or do they want to be weaving into these hero powers? Helsinki Reds
like
really going in on the emotes. Yeah, I think I like the Razormore as well. You do want to try and protect them from a Spellstone. Stealth until your next turn is pretty good.
Yeah. Oof. But this is a Defile clear.
It's a double Defile
Defile.
here.
Yeah.
And they do. A lot of resources have been expended now, and
They're just in survival mode though. And this will
Yeah.
be the Masters Culture. There's a Diamond, we can also hero power. Just stop
Most
weaving
threatening
them
when
in
you
every turn.
Yep.
Press the
You know
button.
the classic caster cliche of CCC, weaving in those hero powers as a hunter.
Weave them in.
Weave them in. The only time that sequence of words is ever used is when you're talking about playing aggressive hunter decks in Hearthstone. No other time. But it is very applicable here. Mole and hero power. And then you can potentially set up for a Dire Frenzy on the following turn because they are down to 11 health. And just snap play a Doom Guard from hand, lose a Mountain Giant, and lose a Dark Pact.
I think that was okay. To be honest, I think we want all the.
Yeah, of all the other options, of course, they would not want to be losing Budget Gul'dan. The fact they still have one Dark Pact for if they are to draw one of their possessed lackeys, can just pull out a Void Lord and just say go.
Yep.
But they do
They
still
can also
have.
go on the offensive. Carnivorous Cube, Dark Pact, hit them in the face, but I don't think we can go aggressive here.
No, and the Wing Blast finally sees some use. And I think we should see the Timberwolf come out from Eminem here, just to push the little bit extra damage set up for a. Wait, does it actually matter? No.
Not really.
The Beast.
Too.
The Beast hero power kill command is lethal whether you play Timberwolf or not. And I'm not sure. I don't think they can do it.
Yeah, it's just
that's it. The Timberwolf.
Yeah, it's all over. Timberwolf, Die Frenzy, Hero Power. That's a lot of damage.
Could do all of them if they really wanted to, but decide against that. Take the quickest route and tie it up sheep at 2-2. It's going all the way down to the wire.
I didn't think they managed to pull it out after seeing the opening hand from Helsinki Reds, but they had that opening hand, but they really didn't have any follow up. They just really drew dead after that. They didn't draw the skull, they didn't draw the possessed lackeys, as you said, and there wasn't much going.
They didn't draw the spellstones.
They had to use their defiles on this one Misha that was stealthed.
Yeah, if they'd had spellstones in their hand when the librarians were in play, then I think things would have gone very differently. But we see a Skull of the Minari.
But there is news. Aha, checkmate.
Yeah, so Helsinki Reds will need to be very aware that in this version of Even Paladin from Eminem, there are 2 copies of Acidic Swampooze.
Yeah, they also run the Mojo Master, and that's a very, very big card in this matchup. When it comes to turn 9, when Helsinki Reds think they're about to plop down a Void Lord,
nope.
Mojo Master comes down.
Yep, prevent Gul'dan, prevent a Void Lord, prevent all manner of big threats. And you gotta think, Helsinki Reds looking at their hand right now are just feeling absolutely chuffed with themselves.
Yep.
But that ruse is just gonna absolutely ruin their day.
Yeah, drawing the Void Lord also means
you're absolutely playing.
You have to play from hand.
Yeah, playing a Void Lord from hand, like even Paladin, can really get you before you get the possibility of playing it from hand. We don't see Corpse Takers or Blessing of Kings in Eminem Gaming's hand, crucially. They don't really have the big offensive threats that even Paladin's capable of putting down in the early game, but they do still just have a decent curve for the time being.
Yeah, maybe they have a bit too much top end for their liking. Tyrion and Lich King already in stuff. Definitely be seeing.
Not fantastic, but they've got a 2-drop and then a 2-drop hero power on the following turn. They have the ooze to deal with the skull, and they've still got... Spellbreak is very powerful against any deck with cubes. Or for allowing you to push through a Void Lord for an bit of extra burst. And Helsinki Reds, they do have stuff going for the time being, but they just elect to do nothing. Don't even throw in a tap as
they're very much on this Skull of Minari, and it is going to be foiled completely.
It is. I'm very surprised that they have chosen not to tap, to be honest, as their hand is quite good, but it could definitely be better, and they could do with some more resources. And they elected to not tap and to just pass very quickly on that turn.
Yep. I don't think they took into account the ooze, to be honest. This is very much a Skull on 5. Sweet.
Yep, Skull on 5 and just hope to win in that manner. But we see the Hellfire from Helsinki Reds deals with a good chunk of this board, just leaves Crystal Smith Kangor alive. And if there was a Blessing of Kings in this position, would be pretty fantastic. And why not give Crystal Smith Kangor his Divine Shield back? He likes
we
it.
could also give the dude the Divine Shield to player on. I really wanted to ensure that we have the steed for the next turn.
Yeah, that is very valid. Or you could just play the Archer Protector and not Hero Power.
Yeah.
Because
All valid.
I really like putting Steed on Crystal Smith Kangor. It just feels good.
Yeah. Though you don't really need that healing in the...
I mean, this is not a matchup where you need it, but it still feels good. You can't deny that.
Yeah. Just a big dude that heals you to full.
Yeah, with Divine Shield, who's just smashing away, healing you up, and has a dinosaur inside him. While also being some kind of robot? I'm not sure. Yeah, Eminem
We're
have
offering
been...
Spellbreaker. I definitely don't want to spell to tempo it out.
That seems like it would probably be the worst play that they could make this turn. That would actually be worse than just playing the coin for no reason.
Here's the skull.
And here we go.
Here's the ooze.
And there's Valinir.
Yeah.
Eminem's hand has a really substantial amount of reach right now. They're
They
going to
also
play
haven't used the
Steed.
coin yet, so it's going to be
Yeah,
like
they're
a Valinir coin 8-drop into another 8-drop.
Yep, or Steed, coin 8-drop into another 8-drop, but they've drawn just enough kind of off the top of their deck to make the fact that they drew their really high end quite early on not that much of an issue. And they have Spellbreaker for if this Possessed Lackey gets played down this turn. I got a feel like if it does get played, that would be a real misstep from Helsinki Reds. But they do
think
have
it
the
has
cheaty
to
ankle
actually
breaker Defile, which lets them throw in a tap to maybe look for some more resources. Mountain Giant, not bad in terms of threats, but not great against decks which run things like Sunkeeper Taram.
It's looking quite rough for Helsinki Reds.
Avenging Wrath could just be played to do 8 to face
This
here,
is a
but
lot of
Valinir coming out.
damage. Oof.
That is a lot of damage, and they're really going to be hoping that this Possessed Lackey calls a Void Lord.
It's the 1 in 3. Hopefully they get lucky, but it's still Spellbreaker.
Nope, they pull the Doom Guard, so they are still very vulnerable to all that face damage.
Yeah. I like starting off with the hit to the face here.
Yep, so let's see what you hit. Corpse Taker getting it, pretty good. Lich King getting it, pretty good. The only real one you don't really want it to hit is Tyrion. That isn't great.
Yeah, don't really want to be playing like Tyrion.
But just because you then lose the
You
death
get
element.
both the weapons, the chill. It's not ideal.
And it hits the Corpse Taker. That is a big minion now. It's a 4-mana
And
7/5.
it has taunt, so they're forced to kill it, and you get the weapon back.
But I'm not actually... No, it will still have Divine Shield as the Glass Knight is still in the deck.
But they're going to opt to play an 8-drop, it seems.
I do not
I'll
hate playing
fault them
Lich
for
King in this situation. It contests very nicely. And
there's
the
a lot
threat of a
There's a lot of 4-mana cards you can play next to the Corpse
Army
Takers.
of the Dead. But things are looking pretty bad for Eminem in this position. Umbra is very scary. There's no way of dealing with it beyond a
Yeah, we
Avenging
really have
Wrath
to deal with this
50-50.
Umbra. Because the Void Law's coming down, and let's guess summon some more Void Walkers.
Yep, and
Those
then
be tricky.
Blood River Gul'dan, even more Doom Guards, even more Void Walkers, and crucially, shoot, since the equality nerf, it is not in this deck.
Yes.
There is no way of clearing the board with that consecration. That's why Wild Pyromancer is also not in the deck. So if Blood Reaver Gul'dan is to come down, summon Void Lords, summon Doom Guards, summon Void Walkers, there is nothing the Even Paladin can do about it. Once Gul'dan comes down, it's game over, and that means it's series
To be
over.
honest, I think that Helsinki Reds might have just done enough.
I think they have done, yeah. It seemed really unlikely just a few turns ago, but I think they have done. The Spellbreaker on the Umbra means that's going to be a Spellbreaker which doesn't go on a Void Lord.
Then again, if they do hit, do they run 2 spells? So let's have a look.
Yep. If they
Yep.
were to draw the second Spellbreaker, then they'd be pretty happy right now.
Yeah,
And
they
they
do
can-
draw a Blasting of Kings.
That will deal with this Void Lord quite
But they
handily.
just play the Steed, so probably see that coming down.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate they can only really play one of them.
Yep. Gul'dan, I think that Gul'dan might just seal the deal. It's gonna
As
have
Gul'dan-
2 Doom Guards coming down, a Void Wall Lord.
As Gul'dan often does, to be perfectly honest. When you play Gul'dan against an aggressive deck, that's it. The card is on a pretty ridiculous power level, and well, it's going to be interesting to see what the game of Hearthstone is like without cards like Blood Reaver Gul'dan in the standard format.
Yeah, definitely. The Death Knights are very powerful cards, and once they get rotated, it's gonna be a whole new game.
But they will still have to deal with this 9-11 Wind Fury Corpse Taker. 9-10, sorry. But the
Yeah.
2 Doom Guards that come from the Gul'dan, which I think are guaranteed,
Yep.
if I'm not
They should
mistaken.
be.
Yep, they will kill the Corpse Taker, and with that, that's a whole lot of threat gone. And now Helsinki Reds are substantially ahead on board, and they still have another Void Lord in hand.
Yeah, it's gonna be a really rough time fighting through these Void. Maybe you can play the Army of the Dead, pull some minions out, but I don't think there's that many big ones left in deck. You already drew your Tyrion, you drew your Lich King.
Yeah, the ones remaining in deck are the ones that they would really like to draw. Things like Sunkeeper Tarim, the second copy of Spellbreaker, second copy of Corpse Taker, Mojo Master Zihi. There's not many standalone good minions. There's a lot of really powerful battle cries left in the deck, which means that Army of the Dead is probably actively detrimental to their chances of winning the game at this point. But that said, what other choices they have? I think Consecration Avenging Wrath could definitely do things in this scenario. If they use Valnir and the Spellbreaker into and the hero and the dude into the Void Lord, they could then Consecration. It would leave a lot of 1 health minion Void Walkers on the board, which would probably clear off most of them, and you would deal with Void Lord, so the chances of a cube coming down will be nullified. But looks like they're going for Army of the Dead, and I'm not sure about this.
Oof.
Yeah, there is the Spellbreaker.
That wasn't great.
That was hugely underwhelming, and I think I much preferred going Consecration Avenging Wrath there,
Yeah, I think so too.
just to
Yeah,
kind of deal with the
that
board.
was one of those cards that you probably wouldn't be playing.
Yeah, and
I mean, there is a full board clear here. It's just a hellfire.
it is
Do you really
unfortunately
want to?
that is a lot of taunts you lose if you do that, though.
Yeah, but they'll
but-
probably die anyway.
They can also just trade in the Umbra and 4 of the Voidwalkers into the 6/7, trade the final one into the Spellbreaker, and then just play a Void Lord. They've seen both Spellbreakers. What do they have to be afraid of at this point?
They could also just play down a giant and fire.
They could also defile without playing down the giant, so it's healthier.
Yeah, that's true.
And looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. Full board clear. They're on 17 health now, and the reach for Eminem is just getting further and further away. Wind Fury Harpy is 1 minion that they would maybe have liked to pull from the Army of the Dead.
Then again, still this Valnir, and it's gonna stay there. So maybe these buffed up minions could seal out the deal. If we hit this
Okay.
Valnir onto the Wind Fury Harpy,
Yeah,
That's a big
what I
harpy.
was... It is a big harpy. Does it hit it though? No, it hits the hydrologist. But that's maybe, I think, the better position here. Auto defense matrix after the Valnir buffed Windfury Harpy hits the board. Maybe that's the win condition M&M Gaming are going for here. It's not the most reliable, for certain, but it's something.
This Tyrion's actually quite tough to deal with. You have to break down his Divine Shield and some.
But Cheaty to
They
Ankle
just
Biter
need that
can
hero
do
pad.
that. Cheaty Ankle Biter, the 1 damage can be used to pop the Divine Shield, allowing a Divine trait. And I think if they were to hero power the Possessed Lackey, that is a 50-50.
It's
No,
always
it's
always
a
a Doom.
guaranteed Doom Guard. They forgot they played the other one from hand. And wait, how much damage is this? Is that lethal? So it goes down to 14.
6,
8,
8,
go down to
12.
6.
No, it's only 12.
No,
right?
there's 2 off.
Oh wait,
but-
it's Consecrate. Yes, okay, yeah, 2 off. 14.
But that's so close.
Yeah, it actually really is. I didn't think it'd be this close.
Yeah, I think the consecration and Windfury Harpy here though. Like they've got to make a really important decision here. Do they want to save the Windfury Harpy for the Valnir buff, or do they want to play it now onto an empty board? Because there's only 3 cards left in hand for Helsinki Reds, with 11 cards left in deck. There is a good chance that second Void Lord just isn't there, and I wonder if M&M think that they have to play towards that possibility, because uncontested Windfury Harpy is pretty scary.
Yeah, I feel I quite like the one for your Harpy actually.
This is a lot closer than I really expected it to be, but
Yeah,
the
I
second
basically
copy
called
of
it at the Gul'dan.
Yeah, we did call it at the Gul'dan, but they've kind of just about made their way through. But once again, Void Lord dealing with an aggressive strategy.
But it's actually still quite close. We can go hit with the Windfury Harpy, hit with the weapon, Avenging Wrath deals 7 guaranteed to face, and the Windfury Harpy also cleans up one of these 1-3 taunts, and that's it. There's nothing left in the Warlock's deck. That's everything.
That's very
There's
true.
only Faceless Manipulators and Cubes, I think.
Yeah, and with nothing to copy or cube, because that will be both Doom Guards, both Void Lords, Gul'dan, 1 Mountain Giant, Umbra.
Yeah,
Tal'Daram.
it'll be the scenario where you have to go Faceless Manipulate on opponent's minion and cube it.
Yeah, so let's see if M&M decide to go for that route. I hadn't thought about the possibility of dealing 8 damage to the Void Lord, so 7 guaranteed goes to the face.
Also, the Valnir goes off, and if it hits this Hydrologist...
It looks like that's what they're going for,
Very
but
nice.
they need to go quickly.
Ooh,
And it does indeed hit the Hydrologist. Valnir
running out
has
of time.
done...
I guess they'll get it down,
so-
maybe get the secret off, but... I don't think they actually got the attack with Windfury.
I'm not sure. In the Spectator client, it often goes a little bit slow. No, they didn't get the attack with the
Oh, and they
Hydrologist,
didn't
nor
get the
did they
dude
to
or
play
the
a
auto defense
secret.
matrix. Oh, it's a disaster.
Yeah, I think they've really wanted to play that auto defense matrix. Just
And
kinda-
this, yeah, this Windfury Harpy just dies to the hero part now, killing another 1 for his taunt.
cheap. We can face this manipulator, the Valnir minion now,
Yes.
and that is absolutely what is happening.
This is the push.
This is Valnir versus Valnir, and there's, like we said before, there's no board clear.
You can also, next turn, you attack face and cube off your Hydrologist to get the Valnera.
I'm 6, 7, 8. Yeah, this is just game over. M&M
Yeah.
can remove 1 Voidwalker, so there is 6 from the Hydrologist, 2 more from Voidwalkers, that's 8, 11 from the Hero Power, 14 from Hellfire. There are no defensive options in M&M's hand. There's nothing they can do to remove any more damage, so that's it.
So even 15 would if you just cube the Hydrologist for the Valnera.
And Sheep, you know what the crazy thing is? It would be 1 off if they had made that Windfury Harpy attack. They would be able to do it. No, they wouldn't, because the cube Hellfire Hero Power would be 11 mana. So if they made that attack, they wouldn't be dead this turn. But they would still be able to do this, so
Yes, so they'd be.
still dead.
That was a crazy game. I thought that Eminem were gonna bring it back at the end.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
Cubot just had enough.
Yeah.
And that was mainly because
Face
they took
Manipulator on
the
Valinor.
Valinor minion.
Yep, Face Manipulator is just a really, really powerful card in so many decks. That's why we see it popping up so much right now. And yeah, we thought the match was completely over when Gul'dan came down, but then Eminem looked like they'd done just enough to get back into the game. But then it just wasn't quite enough. They did all they could, really, but credits due to Helsinki Reds, who took a win in what was a really unfavored series for them. The Q Block and the Death Rattle Hunter both had to win against a pretty unfavored matchup, and they did so. So that means that Helsinki Reds are going to 4-2 and are our fourth confirmed team in the playoffs next week, alongside Royal Blue Esports, Epic Esports, and Intrepid Fox. Yep, that's the one. Thank you, production. But that also means that M&M Gaming, they are 3-3. They still have another chance to make their way through. Alongside Gamers Origin, Sector 1, and one other team who, unfortunately, whose name I've forgotten. So I'm going to throw it back to Livion and the Cinder and Run on the analyst deck, who are going to walk through that match, and maybe one of them can remember the final team who I'm playing. So thanks, Sheep.
Thank you for that, Rebobs. And I think the last team is Ants, but I'm not entirely sure. But we have watched.
It's definitely not Ents.
It's not Ants. Okay.
No.
We have also watched the match. Um, I had notes with every game, and I think you two have as well. So, what was the most notorious note that you had, Cinder?
I think like games 1 through 4 proceeded more or less based on the texture of the hands. I think that the Death Rattle Hunter tech that we talked about, the double Doomsayer, Doomsayer into rolling spider bombs was huge for the Death Rattle Hunter and really let it secure the board and go into its power turns. So credit to Helsinki for that specific build. It actually worked out really well for them. But in game 5, I think that you said notorious notes. Eminem's choice to go with Army of the Dead there later in the game, I think, was really punishing. I think they needed that Spellbreaker very, very badly for the late game scenarios, because there were still Void Lords, or still one Void Lord and still one cube to contend with, and getting it pulled by the Army of the Dead, which was a pretty high percentage chance that it did, ended up punishing them in the long run. So I think that as far as like pivotal decisions that could have gone differently, that was my big one for the match.
Okay, so Ron, in the Priest match, we were talking about how Priest wins games, and you were like, after turn 7, they just win. That's kind of what we saw. Can you explain that?
Run's muted.
You're muted, Ron.
My apologies. Basically, Priest survives until turn 7, and then they start. They've got the ability to start screaming. They can do that on 6 with the coin. They've got large minions in the deck to just handle anything that comes out, and then you've got Anduin for large threats, and you just start pushing damaged lethal. And that's exactly what we saw there. If you don't want to get to turn 7 with a priest, because most likely you're not coming back from that.
Most likely you're the one screaming if you're after turn 7 against the priest.
True story.
So one of the more interesting subtle choices that I noticed was playing Wing Blast or Flanking Strike in the second game. I'm not entirely sure what they had to kill, but they needed 3 damage, and they chose to use the Flanking Strike instead. Oh, yeah, it was the bomb,
The spider bomb. Yeah.
So they use flanking strike, killing the wolf as well, instead of the wing blast. Cinder, you're nodding. Can you explain to me, do you think that was the correct choice, or wasn't it?
So the using the flanking strike there, basically it removes the wolf half out of the card, because the spider bomb kills the wolf after the flanking strike kills the bomb. So if the wing blast at 4 mana would have done the exact same thing, it would have just removed the spider bomb and left nothing on the board. And we saw that decision come back later on, because there was an opportunity for Eminem to use the flanking strike, if they would have had it, alongside a Tundra Rhino, which would have allowed the wolf to have charge and have more board presence and maybe push some more damage. So that could have been a pivotal card for them in the late game along the Tundra Rhino, if they would have decided to keep it.
Okay, with that, I'd like to take a look at the standings. I heard that I made a mistake before, so what I have here is that Royal Blue, Epic Esports, and Intrepid Fox, if I remember, have a spot already together with Oslo Lions. But on the other hand, wait, who won again? Okay, so Helsinki Reds also have a spot, so only
Yeah.
M&M Gaming, Gamers Origin, Sector 1, and Nordafin still have to play for the last two spots, or one spot. As you
Last
can
two
hear,
spots.
I'm
Yeah.
not entirely sure, but I think it's the last two spots
It's the
indeed.
yeah, it is.
So we will have more decided matches after this. We're not entirely sure who's going to cast them, but they are going to be casted, or at least they're going to be streamed. Um, and it will production. Do we know who plays who yet?
I don't think we know just yet. Production is checking, but I don't think we actually have gotten that far into the details. It sounds like that we're going to find out depending on placement, and that's being currently worked by production.
Well, in that case, I think we can throw to a break, and we will definitely come back to you guys with the results from the last round and the decider matches that will be played after this. So see you soon.